have 3 members. Need 7 more for a quorum. What is he saying? It's 20 minutes after 10 and we have 9 members present. We have Mr. Burnson, Mr. Fuhrer, Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Holden, Ms. Mistakowski, Mr. Ridley Thomas, Mr. Wax, Mrs. Wallers, and we now have Mrs. Chick. We have 10 members. Call the roll.
Back.
John.
You got that right.
Alacon, Alatorre, Burnson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Gober, Hernandez, Holden, Mistakowski, Ridley Thomas, Sabornish, Wax, Walters, Ferraro. 10 council members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, the council will please come to order. This is a meeting of the City Council for the City of Los Angeles on the 3rd day of February 1998. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are currently being viewed by cable subscribers throughout the Los Angeles area on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. The first order of business.
Salute to the flag and the invocation.
All right, members of the council, as you know, the first meeting of every month we have our pledged allegiance to our flag, and if you remain standing, we will have the invocation by Father Paul Ruby, representing the Los Angeles Interfaith Committee and the Catholic community of Los Angeles. Father Ruby is a local product, born in downtown Los Angeles, lived here all of his life, and we're honored to have him. So would you please stand? And Mr. Burnson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, please place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father Ruby.
Gracious God, creator of the universe, of each of us, we gather before you grateful of the many gifts that you have bestowed upon us, our beautiful country and city. Pray, Lord, that you would give us the insight to know your will for us, the courage to follow that will always for the good of all. We pray through Jesus, your Son, our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Father, thank you very much. Okay, the next item.
Items for which public hearings have been held, Mr. President, are items 1 through 7 and 20 on your continued agenda.
1 through 7 and 20, these have public hearings have been held.
Yes.
Okay, are there any specials by council members?
Item 20.
Item 20 is called special. Any other specials? Item 4. 5, Mr. Holden calls 5.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Okay.
Any others?
4, 6, 5, 20, special.
We do have Dr. Andres Jimenez, Commissioner for the Board of Transportation. Okay, 7. Dr. Jimenez.
Dr. Jimenez?
Okay, well, all right. What do we have? We have 1, 2, 3.
That's all you have left in that first set, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Prepare the roll on those. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Forthwith on number 1. Okay, the next item.
Items for which public hearings have not been held are items 8 through 19.
We have somebody who wants to be heard on 18. We'll call that special. Any other specials?
Correction on item 13, it's in CD4, but just a minor correction. Item 13, the property's in CD4.
Item 13. Looks like it's in the valley.
Item 10.
Okay. So let's,
Item 10 is
receive and
CD4.
file 8 and 9. Diane?
Yes, Mr. President.
Receive and file, if there's no objections, those will be received and filed.
There's an amending motion on 18.
And we'll call that, what do we call that special already?
Yeah, there was a card.
Okay, then we have 8 and 9, which are received and file, and we have,
And item 14, Mr. President, the recommendations differ between the two committees.
we'll call that special. Okay. So what do we have left?
10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17,
That's
and 19. 20 was called special.
Okay, prepare the roll on those. Tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
Those are approved. Next item.
Back to the specials. Item 4, Councilmember Chick.
Item 4, Mr. Hernandez called 4, I think. Mr. Hernandez, did you call 4 special?
You know, members of the council, I called for special because Ms. Chick, in terms of the Public Safety Committee, has some concerns, and I basically don't have the same kinds of concerns, so I think that the full council should look at the concerns and make a decision. And the reason I want to do that is, we know that PACE works. It started as a demonstration project in Council District 8, 9, and 10, and it worked. And then what happened is the council basically allocated additional funding, and what started happening is too many people started putting their hands in the pot saying, we want PACE. And the reality is, PACE wants to function in the most coordinated effort. I'm sitting there in my office, they're saying, what do we do? How do we prioritize this? And I basically told them, do your job as a department head, prioritize the areas of greatest need throughout the entire city, and do your work. That's basically the instructions I, as a committee chair, thought they should do. Now, what happened is that was for half the money that was allocated to them, and that money will all be used up March 1st of this year. An additional $450,000 was identified, which is basically money that we were setting aside for reinforced masonry buildings that we know the department wasn't able to use, and we were allocating it for the PACE program. And again, if we say it's for Council District 13 or Council District 1 or Council District 3, the reality is PACE should be functioning citywide in those areas of greatest need, because it's a special task force that coordinates its efforts to do its work. And so I am depending on the department head to do his work in determining where those areas should be, and I'm trying to give him funding to have a PACE team. So we know that the funds that we are voting on today in item 3 that we already passed basically will be exhausted in March. And this $450,000 would be an additional allocation for that. PACE has received approximately $700,000. It's been us double counting, triple counting the money that got us where we're at. And so I just wanted to let us know where we're at. I think they do a good job. I want them to continue to do their job. What makes no sense is for us to fund a special team that isn't out there doing work because we cannot decide whose district is more important where they do the work. I just thought that we should let the department do its job.
Members of the council, I think we'll interrupt this for a few minutes because we do have the fire chief here today. He's in charge of the emergency center, and we'd have him come to the center table and give us a little report on what's happened with our rainstorm. Chief?
Morning, Council President, members of the council. What we'd like to do is just give you a brief update on the status. This morning, we activated the EOC to a level 1. Representatives are there from the Fire Department, Police Department, Department of Water and Power, Public Works, Street Maintenance, Lighting, Sanitation, DOT, Building and Safety, ITA, and General Services. The major problems that we're having, we have about 60 incidents this morning that were active, primarily storm-related. Currently, we're running about 30 to 35 active incidents. As far as the major impacts thus far have been primarily on traffic. Throughout the city, 50 intersections have been impacted, primarily in the San Fernando Valley area, with also a concentration down by Los Angeles International Airport. Current weather information indicates that we're about halfway through this current front that's moving, with the expectation that later this evening there will be another major front coming through. The major problems we've had is power outages in selected areas. DOT is managing the intersections. There are no major incidents that have resulted in the disruption of service. Some problems with some of the radio systems, and ITA is working on that now. If there's any specific information that I can provide to you, you're probably aware Sepulveda Dam has been, the basin area has been closed since yesterday. It is doing what it was intended to do, is to hold the runoff. The LA River is about 3/4 full in the flow that it is having now, and we expect that to increase a little bit later in the day as some of the runoff hits. But so far, we've been able to manage what has been termed the heaviest front to come in from the El Nino system thus far this year.
Any questions of the chief? We think you're doing a good job, Chief, and we'll get you back on duty so you can be very constructive.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back to Mr. Burnson. You wanted to be heard. Mr. Burnson, you wanted to be heard on 4?
Yes, I do, Mr. President. These monies, I want somebody here that can answer some questions about this. There's somebody from the staff here. Are we taking money away from the unreinforced masonry building fund to do this? Yep. Just a yes or no, are we?
Yes.
Okay. It seems to me that any diversion of these funds would be a real threat to the safety of the people of Los Angeles. The most dangerous buildings that we have in this city are the URMs. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Believe
Yes.
me. You may be the head of the Building and Safety Department, but I can answer that question for you. I just wanted you to confirm it.
You're correct, sir.
Okay. Now, I was of the opinion that most of the URMs were on the program were completed. Do we still have URMs that are not completed?
There is a few URMs which are relatively few.
Are there? Are they inhabited?
Some of them are, yes.
Some of them aren't, or some of them are?
Some of them are.
Why? Why are we still allowing the time frame on the ordinance has run? We've had evidence that the URMs that have been reinforced do withstand major earthquakes. Why have, number one, why have we not completed the program or else removed the certificate of occupancy from these buildings?
I would be glad to look into that and get back to yourself or
Well,
the
getting
council.
back isn't going to be good enough because we have a measure here to take money from this fund to divert it to something else. And so that's not going to be a satisfactory answer that you're going to get back to me on it. My guess is that, and the report, on this report says that we should take the money from the URM fund, the $450,000?
That's correct. Currently, the URM money, approximately $1 million was allocated. Only approximately $150,000 is spent. So there is, even after this money is taken out, the $450,000, there is adequate money to implement the URM program.
There is adequate money to make sure that it gets completed. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. The report was written and prepared prior to my coming on board with the City of Los Angeles. So
We're not
that-
using public funds to do these URMs unless they happen to be in a redevelopment district, in which case they could be used from the increment money. But my understanding is that all of this money is being funded privately. Now, we may be financing some loans or something like that, but that would be the extent of it as far as I know. Virtually all these buildings have been reinforced by private funds.
That is consistent with my understanding.
Okay,
sir.
is there adequate money to divert this money to the PACE program and still be able to follow through on the URM program?
That is my understanding, sir.
That is your understanding? Will you
Yes, sir.
confirm that?
Again, the report was prepared prior to my coming on board.
Well-
If there is any staff of building and safety here, maybe they can
Okay.
add to that information, but that is my understanding, sir.
Members of the council, This is a very serious matter. I have no problem with transferring some of those funds if they're not needed. But if they are needed, I don't think anything takes a higher priority than completion of this program, particularly if there are buildings that are currently inhabited, which I was not aware of, by the way.
Thank you,
I won't press my button again, John. Just let me complete it. In addition to that, I would ask that we continue this for a day and find out if there's going to be adequate funds. If there is, fine. If there's not, then I think we need to look at it. In the meantime, I would suggest that we vigorously enforce the ordinance, which is long past due for some of these buildings. They should either be repaired or they should be demolished.
All right,
one of the
Mrs.
two.
Chick?
Thank you. Until the concerns just raised by our colleague who is our watchdog on earthquake issues and building safety in regards to that, I was comfortable with this going forward today, both item 3 on the existing PACE program and the reallocating of this $450,000. What I was asking the chair of CED and my other colleagues was that what we hold back on today is mandating that the $450,000 has to be spent on the PACE program. Move it forward to change it short of addressing the serious concerns that Mr. Bernstein has raised. I think we do need specific answers. That we know we need targeted code enforcement. We know we need it citywide in our CDBG areas, and we know that it's a key part of the targeted neighborhood initiative neighborhoods. What I'm saying is that there are some TNI areas that have serious code enforcement problems, that are neighborhoods in serious decline, and that these are key parts, and was always a key part of the mayor's TNI proposals, was proactive code enforcement. But some of those TNIs not only have not received PACE attention yet, might not need a PACE team approach, which is fairly intense and fairly expensive. I recognize that there are parts of the city where the PACE program is working very well, but I think that there are some TNI areas that might need a variation on the theme that's less expensive, thereby allowing the larger chunk of resources to fund PACE teams in the areas that need it, but still not completely overlooking the other TNI areas that very much need some code enforcement, or else the philosophy in the city is saying, until you get very, very bad, your area isn't going to get the resources. So what I'm asking is that we get the answers to Mr. Bernstein's questions, which could be today or tomorrow, but that what we hold back on today, what we take out, and I would move that we take out the specific designation that it be PACE and say citywide targeted code enforcement, and ask Mr. Adelman to come back to us with a proposal, since he wasn't here for some of this, that uses the $450,000 we're reallocating today for targeted code enforcement in the CDBG areas and TNI areas, combined with whatever he's getting in next year's allocation, so that we've got a really realistic, comprehensive program to look at and vote on and lock into for code enforcement for all 15 of our districts. I don't see this as a tug of war over resources. What I see it is giving a general manager the thoughtful time to come up with a comprehensive plan that meets all of our needs. And Mike, that really is just the one technicality, is asking, since we're not sure of the full budget from April 1st to the end of March for next year, to not lock into anything right now on how it needs to be spent on code enforcement. Give Mr. Adelman a couple of weeks to come back with a comprehensive proposal on code enforcement for CDBG areas.
Ms. Goldberg, Mr. Hernandez, push your button again.
First, Hal, as to the earthquake stuff, I asked many of those questions because the inhabited unreinforced masonry buildings, many of them are in Hollywood and in my part of Hollywood, in my district. They assured me now I'm just telling you, they assured me that they left enough money in to take care of those. And because I was very concerned when this came to CED. However, I don't know what that means, except that it means I hope that the program is going forward. Though, to get a more comprehensive answer, perhaps we should hold it a day, and I would have no objection to that. Exactly. So if we want to wait for a more comprehensive answer, I would not object to holding it a day at all.
I do have the answer to some of those questions, and if I may, I would like to provide the...
Let me finish my other point, because then they'll cut me off, and then you can answer it. I'm learning, Mr. President. The other point, however, about this $450,000, and then I believe there's $1 million, didn't we see, in the CDBG for next year proposed by the mayor for PACE. So I can understand why. I have some of the same concerns, to be honest with you. There are parts of my district where PACE would absolutely be necessary. But there are parts of my district that have not gotten to that degree of deterioration where an intense month or 2 or 3 of a building inspector with less money expended than the full PACE thing would prevent certain types of decay of housing. And so, I was in the committee, and I moved that we put this forward, but I would have no objection if it could be done quickly to take a look at the $1.5 million now that we're talking about, and making sure that we're putting PACE where it belongs, not using PACE where something less than PACE would do, and that we have the ability to cover whatever it takes in those areas that are in decay to be covered wherever they are in the city. So I have a foot in each camp, because I was in the committee that did it, but that was before we knew about the $1 million, at least before I did, and maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to give them a chance, if they can do it quickly, to have a second look.
I think Mr.
Mr. President, if I may, I would like to clarify and provide answer to Councilmember Bernson's question. On the URM money, originally $1 million was provided for the URM. During the 18 months period, we spent a total of $160,000. So there is, as of right now, there is $840,000 left in the URM fund. After we reallocate $450,000, if the council chooses to reallocate $450,000 to the PACE program, there is still $390,000 left in the URM program, which would be sufficient to continue on with the URM program for sometime in the future, for a near future, probably for the next 2 years to 3 years. There is sufficient money left in the URM program to continue on the URM retrofitting program. In terms of the URM program, my understanding, I was clarified that every building which has not been retrofitted to any degree is currently vacant. There is no occupied building which has not been retrofitted to one degree or other. Hopefully that clarifies the issue regarding the URM and the URM funding. In terms of the money, the $450,000 which is in front of you, the department recommendation would be to reprogram the $450,000 to the code enforcement, and then after the department finds out how much the department is going to get for the code enforcement, and the current proposal is $1 million, what is drafted by the mayor's office, that is a total of $1.4 million. The department be required, along with the CLA and CAO's office, to come back with a comprehensive report on how the program will be set up for the second year, in terms of whether it will be in the form of the PACE money or otherwise.
All right, Chair recognizes. You're up. Do you want to speak? Chair recognizes Councilwoman Walters.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Mrs. Chick argues that she's not talking about taking resources away from other areas, but waiting for a comprehensive plan. But the effect of delaying this would be to do just exactly that. would be to take resources away from, it does, Ms. Chick, it takes resources away from my district and the other districts that are in the program and holds those pending this $1 million July 1. And some of you say you got a small area here or an area there, that parts of your district need this. Let me tell you that you can throw a dart on the map for CD9 and anything around it needs it. The entire district needs it. It is suffering from years and years and years of neglect in the code enforcement area. Just massive neglect. Block after block, street after street, and with people continuing to call and clamor for the code enforcement. The pilot program that did, it was like 2 or 3 square blocks. That's it. And you know, it hardly makes a ripple in the problem, let alone a dent in the problem. So no matter how well-intentioned, it is taking money away from areas and holding that money in abeyance while this comprehensive program gets going for July 1. To say that it was the mayor targeted the funds in the $1 million in the TNI money, the TNI money was given to neighborhoods to determine what they were going to do with the money. And they could either spend it for code enforcement or not spend it for code enforcement. So I do not see the holding this up for the next few months as being in any way helpful to getting a citywide program. I want to have a citywide. I think everybody should have it where they need it. But I don't think that my district or any other should be held hostage while the program is developed for other areas. So I would urge you, council members, to support item 4 and to also support a comprehensive program, but not to hold up this program while we wait for that.
All right, thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Holden.
Mr. President, I was in Oakland yesterday. She wasn't even in the meeting. But I will say this, that, Mr. President, members, there's a difference between the PACE program and the TNI program. I think you, sir, are going to have to clarify what the difference is and how the money is to be spread out. Now, there are some districts, obviously, and I'm very pleased, that are newer districts. It's a newer neighborhood. The infrastructure is new. The homes are newer. They're not as it's aged as some of the homes in the inner city, and therefore the need is not as great. And at the same time, those who represent those areas, I want to just share with you a thought that we cannot afford the luxury to stall or not go forward aggressively to help the neighborhoods that need help. I've heard this debated over and over again to the extent where I want to say, take the money and dump it. It's only $450,000 anyway. If you're going to deny a segment of this city $450,000 that will be used for the purpose of improving the quality of life in certain neighborhoods by improving making landlords adhere to the code, enforce the code, then I don't know where you're coming from, because you kind of waste millions and millions of dollars in other areas. This is $450,000 well spent. You have to spend this before you can on the PACE program, before you can spend the $450,000 on the TNI program. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go forward. I don't think we've been stalling it for 2 months already, for no good cause. I understand you've had meetings on this, and the persons who've been complaining about going forward didn't even come to the meeting to address the issue. It's unfortunate that it has to be this way. It's sad, and if you want to say so, because some neighborhoods are pretty run down and really do, in fact, need the help. And I would hope that we could get a unanimous vote to go forward and spend the $450,000 that would be well spent. And I ask for an aye vote on Mr. Hernandez's motion.
Mr. Fuhr?
I had a couple questions, Mr. President. Ms. Walters raised some questions to which I think I need to have some clarifying answers. Ms. Walters stated that the result of voting no on this, at least for the moment, is to take money from the PACE program for, say, her district and reallocate it elsewhere. Is that true? And if so, what's the impact on her district, as an example?
May I explain? There is currently a PACE team which is proceeding and it is fully funded, and by the action that you took on item 3 or are going to take on item 3, it is fully funded through July 31st, 1998. So that PACE team, that work goes on.
In which, in 8, 9, and 10?
They did the 8, 9, and 10 during the first 6 months through month of October, and currently they are working on council districts 14, 10, 6, and they are waiting to get started on council district 13.
All right, but is the amount of money sought to be reprogrammed, therefore, is the only source of money with which, say, Ms. Walters can get service in her district for the next 6 months? Is that true? But the amount of money that, but Mr. Edelman, is that right?
The amount of the money that is being reprogrammed here for $450,000 is for an additional code enforcement PACE program. It is unlikely that it is going to go immediately into the effect, because we need to, if it passes, we need to put the staffing together and a team together. So the earliest that it can get started probably is in 30 to 45 days.
All right. Now, there are a couple.
It is above and beyond what is going on.
It is above and beyond.
It is above and beyond what is going on right now. Now, what is going on right now is funded through March 31st, 1998. After that, it is not funded, and that is where the grants, which is going to be, was proposed by the mayor and is going to be going to the CDD is going to be essential for us to continue on the proactive code enforcement program.
All right. And in the city right now, we have the PACE program for code enforcement. We have a complaint-driven code enforcement effort that has been in effect for a long time, but of nominal effect throughout the city. Is there any other code enforcement program currently in effect?
There is the general approach in the city historically, going back for many years, has been complaint-driven.
Right.
That has not been
I just said that, but besides that and besides PACE, is there any other code enforcement mechanism currently in the city?
There is 2 or 3 other programs which have got acronym, which are aiming at specific issues, such as, for example, the vehicle. What was it called?
And there's a substandard housing thing, the PPRT, right?
I'm sorry?
All right.
There's a housing task force, there's a PPRT, there's a one which deals with the vehicle establishment.
All right.
But those are all target-specific areas.
Last question, because my time is expired. Mr. Burnson and Ms. Goldberg both asked questions about the impact on the unreinforced masonry project. When last we left that topic, it seemed to me that we hadn't had a very definitive answer as to the impact on that program of taking this money away, and I think that one of my colleagues had recommended a day's continuance to know that. Do we need a day or not?
We do not, because I have the information, and if I may, I would like to...
What is the information?
The information is that it will not impact the implementation of the URM program for near future. We started with the URM program with $1 million. During the last 18 months, we have spent $160,000, so there's $840,000 left in the URM program.
But how do you respond to the concern?
Mr. Fura, please.
Okay.
So even if
they
we
still
take...
have buildings in there, well, all right, not my turn.
Mr. Wax?
I just don't want us to lose track of one thing, Mr. Edelman. When Mr. Fuhrer asked the question, are there any other code enforcement programs other than PACE? Yeah, it's called the Department of Building and Safety. You know, long before we have some of these specialized programs, your duty, your job, your department is to be involved with code enforcement. And I think we would be going astray down the line if we tend to rely only on a few specific programs as the city's efforts for code enforcement. Your whole reason for being, your staff, your budget, is for code enforcement, and that's true if we never had a PACE and we never had this program. I mean, those are extras, those are targeted, those are bonus, but never let it be forgotten that your function is code enforcement in part, and so there is no reason why. Well, there's just a danger here of thinking that there's code enforcement only in those places that have these very specific programs. They are extra tools, they provide additional emphasis, coordination, all the things that we want to have for a more effective program, but you still have a lot of inspectors out there that at last I looked at your budget, and they're there in part to deal with code enforcement. So I hope that we don't lose sight of that and that code enforcement take place in all parts of the city as appropriate.
The department has two functions. One is the servicing the new construction and development, and the other one is doing the code enforcement. As time has gone, and the new construction is directly supported by the fees paid by developers, and under various state laws, the fees collected from the developers can be used exclusively to service those new construction. Currently, about 85 to 90% of the department budget is funded, 80% approximately to 85%, by the fees collected from the developers for new construction. Therefore, 80% of the staff in the department are working on the new construction. The portion which is general funded, which is approximately 10 to 15% of the department, that is the portion which is available to do the work on code enforcement. And unfortunately, that is not nearly enough to do the entire city. Yes, you are quite correct that we need to do a better job, but the fact is currently the entire city of Los Angeles with population over 3 million people, we have less than 100 staff members doing code enforcement. The department has 800 staff members, but 700 are funded, paid for by the development fees, and as such, under the state law, they are obligated to work only on the development, new construction. So there is only 100 people for the entire city, or less than 100 people. And quite frankly, in a discussion with one of the Councilmember Chicks, I compared that to throwing a cup of water into the ocean.
But
it is not nearly enough.
Are you sure that the council and the mayor in the past years didn't increase the development fees enough to sort of cover some of this other function? That's not your problem, that's budgetary problems, but I think we might have to look at that at budget time.
Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of the Council, and Mr. Fuhr was bringing up again the concern about the unreinforced masonry buildings, and I think we all have that major concern because, as he was sharing with me right now, what if an earthquake hit today? And we still have people living in those kinds of buildings, and not only in Councilman Goldberg's district, but my district, throughout the entire city. But the reality is, we have a staff that has been applying itself to unreinforced masonry buildings. And because of the ability to basically, in some cases, demolish them and recover the cost of the bricks and the cooperation they've been getting from the building owners, the reality is they were only able to use about $150,000 in the first year of implementation, full year.
First 18 months.
First 18 months. And so we had set aside $1 million for this purpose. And so what we did is we allowed them to maintain another $400,000, I think, in the account to continue the work at the most rapid pace they could work. And they anticipated that that would be more than enough. And that's why we're taking $450,000. Now let me address Mrs. Chick's concern. In her targeted neighborhood, there's about 40 buildings that are being inspected. I don't know if you received the report. Okay, well, there's a report here that basically says Council District 3. Okay, so then Ms. Chick probably has more buildings in her district than I have in mine, and I'm willing to concede that. And if that's the case, PACE should be working there. PACE should be working there if that was the case. And see, we know PACE works, and we know that it's serving a purpose. But I guess sometimes having a bird in the hand can get messy because everybody wants that bird. You see, and what's happened here is we haven't allowed PACE to continue its work at its most rapid pace because we're trying to change the direction of where they should be working as a council. We're trying to manage this department's work. And what I'm trying to do right now is say, let's get PACE another $450,000 because their work will stop in June. Their work will stop altogether. Now, the mayor has submitted a proposal that none of you have really had a chance to see because I just got it on Friday. And I wasn't happy with that proposal because it takes an additional $5 million away from housing. After we took $11 million away from housing last year. And code enforcement is part of housing. Now, he also put additional funds into economic development incentives. That's the direction this mayor feels he wants to go. It's the kind of direction certain parties like to spend money and others don't. Now, I think it's important that we as a council recognize that we have that responsibility, keeping in mind that the consolidated block grant is supposed to be supplemental. And it should be focused in those areas of greatest needs, and that's why the federal government
Mr.
gives
Hernandez.
it to us. Now, I am saying that that part of the debate is just beginning. And that's where we deal with the targeted neighborhood initiative issue. That's where we deal with the budget that Ms. Chick is talking about.
Sure.
And that door is still open.
Mrs.
I just
Chick.
would like them to be able to continue doing their work.
Mrs. Chick.
Colleagues, I think certainly we have some slightly differing views on some minor points and some real consensus on the major ones. One, we all know that we've been putting Band-Aids on the wounds, never able to get to the preventative end. And what we've ended up with is a reactive code enforcement citywide that basically doesn't work. And so we have to form PACE teams, which are labor and cost intensive and effective, to go into certain neighborhoods, zap an area, and then because we don't have adequate funds or staff, pull them out to go in and zap another area. Councilmember Walters, I think there has been a misunderstanding here. My request to make a slight change is not holding up anything. Building and safety can't fill those spots fast enough to create, that $450,000 is to create an additional PACE team. And that additional PACE team will be pulled citywide, just like the one in existence. So they might be able to come back to Council District 8 and do another several months of effective targeted enforcement. But that's never going to deal with the widespread serious problem that you described and I am aware of. It's never going to deal with stopping creeping blight from growing more and more into other areas citywide. I am supportive of the PACE program. I'm very supportive of code enforcement and building and safety, and think we have to look carefully at the department's priorities to see if it isn't weighted too much on the business development side and too little on the code enforcement, both, and forget reactive, it should be proactive citywide. All I'm asking for, colleagues, is to change the capital letters to lowercase letters in the opening paragraph of the committee's report, and to say that the $450,000 should be allocated to targeted proactive code enforcement citywide in qualified areas. If we're talking about not micromanaging the department, the general manager, this is not about a tug of war. This is how it was conceptualized last time. A tug of war over resources. There aren't enough code enforcement resources to go to any of us. What it's about, and what I'm arguing for, is trying to come up with the most thoughtful, effective, cost-efficient way to spend these dollars citywide. The new general manager of this department, someone I think we all have growing faith in, has asked for us not to mandate how these dollars are spent today, but to wait for the process to come from our CED committee to fine-tune the mayor's proposal, to look at that $1 million for code enforcement, and to make this $450,000 part of what is allocated from next year and let him come up with a proposal that might combine creating a new citywide PACE team, in addition to the one already in existence, continuing to be funded, and perhaps a more cost-effective way to
Mrs.
use
Chick.
part of the dollars for code enforcement
Mrs. Chick.
differently than PACE.
Mrs. Goldberg. Members, we do have 3-minute limits, so.
I'll be much briefer than that. I really think that I'd like to see this continued at least till Friday. I am still I'm still concerned about the unreinforced masonry part of this and would like to meet with you about how many buildings there are left and where we are and what our plan is, because we just don't have the resources for people who are living right now today in a building that would fall down if we had another earthquake. I'm not talking about just that there's code enforcement necessary. The building would fall down, as some of them did in my district as well as other parts of the city. So I would like to see that, and I'd like to ask that I will move that we continue this till Friday to give us an opportunity to find out about the source of the money, and for other people who have other concerns to raise them as well.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Not number 3, just number 4.
Mr. President, I'm really rather startled by the length of the discussion involving this issue, and it seems to have marked this particular item each time it has come before the council. I'm not quite sure why that is the case. We are talking about all of, at this point, $450,000. It seems to me that the appropriate departments, with the assistance of the city administrative officer or whoever, ought to be able to clarify this in a way that this is much easier to get through. Each time we have discussed this matter, it has gotten stuck in prolonged debate that one would have thought could have been settled either in committee or at the staff level. My own feeling, quite frankly, is this. Mr. Wax, you make the point, and I think it's an appropriate one, about what the department should be doing generally as a matter of course. But I would remind all of us the reason for the creation of PACE, Proactive Code Enforcement, was precisely because of the way in which the department had been doing its business, on demand, essentially status quo, rather than going after problems that were contributing to the deterioration of communities. I think that's the orientation that the entire department ought to have. As it relates to what is immediately before us, I would hope that we could dispose of this without further delay, unless there's something that is just simply beyond resolution. But I doubt that such is the case, particularly when we're talking about the sum total of $450,000 that has citywide implications. All of us know that we really have to have a much more significant debate about this issue in the context of the budget. But right now, it seems to me forward movement is the order of the day, and I would hope that that could be accomplished.
Mr. Burnson.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as concerned about which enforcement is used, as long as we do enforce our codes. I think that all areas of the city do have, if not homes or buildings or areas, and obviously some are more needy than others. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to go there today. What concerns me more than anything else is this has opened up something that none of us were aware of, and that is that there are still URMs in this city, and it's now about 5 or 6 years past the deadline for enforcement, and some of these buildings, in fact most of them, I believe all of them, are residential use. Now, I don't understand why these buildings the codes haven't been enforced, why they even haven't been required to do the repairs, or why they haven't been vacated. There is no excuse, and I'm telling you right now, what I would like for Friday when this comes back, I would like a report for this council, not just for Mrs. Goldberg, because I think all of us are interested. And there are other buildings, I think Mr. Hernandez may have some. I don't think I have any, but other council districts may. But we're all concerned about safety of people throughout the city. I would like a report back on, giving us a list of the number of buildings, where they're at, what type of buildings they are, and how many people live in those buildings, and what you plan to do to make sure that those people are provided either with another residence, because that may be the case in some cases, if it's economically not viable and we can't provide some sort of assistance or loans or whatever through our housing funds or CRA funds for these residents. I can't think of anything more critical, very frankly. As much as we're trying to create housing in this city, this would have to be the number one priority. And I would like that report back here on Friday, if you would, please.
The department will prepare a comprehensive report about the URM and will bring it back to the council by Friday, regardless of what action the council takes on the items in front of it. I believe the report in that will be done.
Mr. Fuhr?
Yeah, I want to continue down this path just for another couple seconds. What I'd said to Ms. Goldberg and Mr. Hernandez a few moments ago was, today we're being deluged by rain. But if today's emergency were not rain, but instead an earthquake, as was stated, people would be dying, and this program is designed to prevent that from happening. And too frequently in our city, generally, you're relatively new to our city, but very frequently we end up taking from a purported surplus in one pool of funds and reallocating it to another source, when in fact the problem is that the original pool has a surplus because we haven't been as aggressive as we should be about pursuing the goal for which it was established in the first place. And there's some discussion about there being some more positions necessary and some negotiations with the mayor being necessary. Well, let's do it, for goodness sakes. Because all of us here are really riveted on the idea of effective code enforcement, and I will stand up and say that we clearly need to focus more heavily with scarce resources on certain parts of the city than others which are in graver need for that code enforcement. That principle is appropriate and it's right. But I am gravely concerned about taking it from this pool of funds merely because we have failed to be as aggressive as we should be, and therefore we have a surplus that shouldn't exist. So I rise to, in other terms, support what my colleagues have said on this point to convey to you a sense that in a world of conflicting priorities, we should be doing both of these things here. Let's not take resources away from a life and death source of funds, unless you can tell me good reasons, not simply bureaucratic hassles that have prevented us from implementing the program long ago.
It will be done by Friday, sir.
Mr. Hernandez?
I never thought that Canoga Park and Westlake would be competing for CDBG monies, and that's what this looks like this debate is about. I really do think we want to give the department the freedom to prioritize and determine where PACE should be operating, and PACE should continue its work. I also have the same concerns about the unreinforced masonry buildings. My questions have been answered. But at the same time, I do want to respect my colleague Jackie Goldberg and her questions, and they should be answered fully. Members, what's bothersome about this debate is the reality is we do have tremendous need in the city. And there are areas in every council district that have some needs. But let's not forget that there are areas that have much more. And that children have no place they can go in some communities to just play because things are as bad. In other communities, it might be a block, and census data tells us that. It's nothing we can fool. We know the realities. And when we talk about the growth, that's been a problem this whole city's had. And that's why I protect the block grant, and I look at the block grant, and I was the one who wanted to expand its use so that we can basically stop the cancer of poverty from growing in the city of Los Angeles. But I also know the tremendous need programs like PACE, and there is no way that we can claim to have enough. And the $450,000, as Mr. Ridley Thomas said, is is not enough, but it's something that will continue the program, and it's a program that's needed by the city. And we could address the other issues of targeted neighborhoods in next year's budget, not only in the block grant, but the general budget, if that is the reality of the needs. Right now I have mixed feelings on the extension because we've been dealing with this issue. I'm glad we passed item number 3, and because we passed item number 3, I wouldn't mind holding till past item number 4.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
I'll follow Mr. Goldberg.
Previous question, Mr. President, is in order.
Prepare the roll on the previous question, which would cut off debate. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we have the matter before us. What do we have?
You have a motion by Goldberg-Fuhr to continue this item to Friday. The department will report back on the questions and concerns by the council members at that time.
Okay, prepare the roll on continue until Friday. Tabulate the vote.
11 aye, 1 no.
We had an hour discussion on a continue an item for a week, for a few days, so. Next item.
Item 5, called special.
Members of council, first of all, item 19A, we want to send that forthwith, and item 19B was called special. Okay, next, item 5.
Yes, Councilman Holden has an amending motion.
Mr. Holden, you called 5 special?
For purpose of amendment, Mr. President. The amendment is on your desk.
What is your amendment, Mr. Holden?
To instruct the Community Development Department to take the appropriate action to request the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for a waiver for the conflict of interest issue related to the proposal submitted by the Golden Day School, Inc. for funding under the development of expansion of child care, youth and/or neighborhood facility matching grant loans program. The 7th round request for proposal, and if the waiver is granted, Golden Day School, Inc. be included in attachment 2B attached to the file. That's like 1, 2, 2B, to receive funding priority in the 24th year consolidated program.
Okay. Okay, is there any objections to that amendment, 5A?
Hold on, Mr. President. Let us review it for a second.
Okay, let's lay it on the desk and we'll go.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to the item number 6.
Councilmember Chick?
Mrs. Chick, you called 6 special?
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I second 5A.
Mrs. Chick, 5A?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I'm on.
second 5A.
No, and we're talking on 6. There's other members that want to read that first.
On item 6, yes, colleagues, I just wanted to draw your attention to something that I've introduced a motion on today, several motions, in fact, but this was a case that came to Public Works Committee involving an accident on a street in the Hollywood community. And what came to light in Public Works Committee was that, in fact, it took something like 34 months after the accident for our city departments to come to us and basically ask for permission to post caution slippery when wet signs and to take $40,000 out of existing budgeted funds to repair balding pavement that had caused the accident. This accident cost us $750,000. We were sued and we paid out $750,000, but it took us 34 months for the city departments to go in and do some minor repairs and signposting to help prevent future accidents. I have asked for our city departments with street maintenance at the lead to bring together a task force of related departments and report to Public Works Committee on how information on hazardous road conditions can be better coordinated in a proactive way and hopefully save the city and save lives in the future rather than the way we're doing things right now. Thank you.
You know, thank you for bringing that out because it's in my district and we did have a large lawsuit that we had to pay after being warned, and that's not the only one that's ever happened. We've been warned time and time again. So Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Next item.
But, Mr. President, we don't own your district like we own the 11th already, do we?
No, well, even my district has problems too.
7 called special, Councilmember Goldberg.
Ms. Goldberg, you call 7 special?
In the amount of time it took us to debate item 4, I've gotten my answers, and I have no more questions.
Okay, prepare the roll on 7. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. That is approved now. Are we satisfied with 5A and,
I'd like to speak on it for a second.
okay, then, well, let's move on.
14 called special, you have 2 sets of recommendations before you.
Okay,
Budget and Finance has recommended exempting at one time only 2 senior management analyst ones in the LAPD Records and Identification Division, and Personnel has recommended a blanket exemption of 6 positions, senior management analyst 1.
okay, do we have a motion? Ms. Goldberg, your committee recommended a blanket exemption, and the Budget and Finance has recommended 2 exempt positions.
Just a moment. Let me look at it.
Item 14.
I don't know which came first, and the chair is not here to ask.
Mr. Fuhr, do you recall item 14?
Review it again, Mr. President.
Okay, I'll review.
Budget
Mr.
and
Fuhrer, hold
Finance
it on
met
the
on
desk.
January the 20th. The Personnel Committee met on September 4th of 97. The most recent is Budget and Finance.
Mr. Chair, at that meeting, the chair of the Budget and Finance was not there as vice chair. I was in the chair, and we approved the 2 positions, not the blanket exemption.
Okay, then you're moving.
For this.
You're moving the Budget and
And
Finance.
I moved the Budget and Finance report.
Yeah. Is there any,
I still would like to hold this for just a minute.
okay, leave it on the desk. Next item.
18 called special. Card was submitted.
Camelia Lombardo, Friends of the Observatory. Do you want to be heard on 18?
Yes.
Take the center microphone, please.
Thank you very much, President Ferraro. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Camille Lombardo. I'm Executive Director of Friends of the Observatory. And I just wanted to remind you that Griffith Observatory is one of the named or specified projects in Proposition K. And we have been an active part in working with the steering committee for nearly a year now. And I wanted to commend everyone who has been a part of this process and has worked so hard on the proposition, particularly the Prop K Steering Committee and their support staff that have been very helpful to us in understanding what's going on. Everyone in the Department of Recreation and Parks, and the representatives of the Regional Volunteer Neighborhood Oversight Committees, which you all appointed, and where Griffith Observatory received a unanimous support for inclusion in the early years of Proposition K. So I appreciate your support for the inclusion on the A list today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Camille. Okay, Mr. Hernandez, you want to be heard on this?
You know, members of the council, and 18A basically includes the steering committee as the oversight committee as the process. For some reason, the report had omitted that, and I think it's very important. You know, when I looked at the overall list of requests for funding, as the author of Prop K, I felt like the chicken on the rotisserie being cooked, because the reality is the requests did tend to come from the areas that had more open land, the areas that basically had more affluence, the areas that had less kids of the city.
He's in favor of
And, you know, I need to remind the steering committee the intent of Prop K was to also try and create a balance in the city. The intent of Prop K was also to allow for children to have environments in which the quality of life was equal throughout the city. And so the reason the list that came before you and the request that came before you is off-sided is because other areas were more prepared to get this funding. They had open land that could be bought without an appraisal. They had groups who could match it. And that's why I fought so hard to get matches out of Block Red. I just want the council to know that I didn't feel that this was a very balanced allocation, but I also understand why it's before us, because we have to assess the properties for the projects in order to get to 25 million. But I do want my colleagues to be aware that it's going to take a council conscience to catch up. And hopefully in the future requests, that council conscience will be there, because if it's not, the reality is I'll continue to be cooked on that rotisserie. And we'll continue to have an unbalanced city, and children will not be able to grow with the same quality of life throughout the city of Los Angeles.
Goldberg?
Yes, I too wanted to just comment briefly on a similar topic. It seems that the Rec and Park Department picked and chose which ones to prepare first, and that, I think, was a part of the problem. They didn't drop in a note saying that no EIR was required before a certain date on several projects in my district. That's all it would have taken. And because that note was not in it, it didn't get EIR clearance, and they couldn't be included. It had nothing to do with whether the land had been appraised or not or anything else. So I just think that this was not our stellar attempt at trying to bring some equity in the recreation and park areas of our city, and hope that we are going to be a stellar group in the next go-rounds, because all this did is further exasperate the distance between the haves and the have-nots. And I don't think that's what any of us thought Prop K was intended to do.
Okay. The amendment?
18A, Fuhrer Hernandez.
Okay, prepare the roll on the amendment. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Now we have 18 as amended. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote. That is
12 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith on that. Next item. 5, we have 5 now. There's a...
5's okay.
No objections to 5 as amended?
I just want to make sure on the wording, if I could have a little help from the city attorney. I wouldn't want it to prioritize it above any of the projects on the list 2B, but rather for it to be competitive with those projects.
I think that's clear.
Yeah.
Okay, is that...
Yeah, I believe the language is sufficient for that. I think the council intent is that.
Okay, prepare the roll on 5 as amended. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved, and we'll send that forthwith. Okay. All right, next item.
20 call special or 19B?
There's a lot of people on on 20B, so let's... how long a public hearing you want? I don't think we want to hear all these people.
I think 5 to 10 minutes.
Why don't we have a couple from each side speak?
All right. John, let's do this. If we could have DOT briefly make a concise presentation and then allow like a 7-minute public hearing, something of that nature.
Okay. All right. Can we have DOT make a report?
On item number 20, very briefly, the Getty Center opened on December 16th to rave reviews, good media coverage. As a result, there were a large number of visitors that came to the Getty during the holiday season. This resulted in traffic problems and parking problems around the Getty. We worked together with the Getty staff and the council office to respond to those problems. They included, we provided traffic officers for traffic control. There was congestion on Sepulveda Boulevard and in the surrounding neighborhoods. There was also an inundation of the neighborhoods with people seeking parking, and we also were there to do taxi cab enforcement because we found that people were parking in adjacent areas and hailing cabs that were taking them to the Getty Center. As a result of this situation, the City Council on December 23rd authorized a 30-day temporary permit parking district in the surrounding neighborhood. Signs were posted in that district on the 30th of December, and the department enforced those signs, and the council asked us to report back to you at the end of 30 days on a recommendation of how to continue. And that's why we're here today. We have since met with the affected council offices as well as the Getty Center staff to develop an enhanced transportation access program. We are still working with them on the details of that program. So today we are here to recommend a one-year extension of the permit parking district, and there are essentially three reasons that I think the district needs to be extended. First of all, we need to evaluate the demand for attendance at the Getty through a period of 1 year. This would include the summer season when we expect the demand to go up again. We haven't seen the various holidays, and we haven't seen a Christmas holiday season that wasn't the opening for the Getty. So there are still some unknowns as to what the long-term demand will be. It still remains strong. It came down some in January once the holiday was over, but it's my understanding that the parking is still booked up 1 to 2 months in advance, and that there's still a very strong demand both during weekdays and on weekends to attend the Getty Center. Secondly, we need some time to work with the staff of the Getty to develop an enhanced transportation access program, which might include shuttle buses, a program with the taxis, charter buses, and so forth. And lastly, we do have safety concerns. Sepulveda Boulevard, if you're familiar with it, is somewhat like a rural highway. The speeds are quite high. There are no sidewalks on one side of Sepulveda. The sidewalk on the other side is narrow and discontinuous. As a result, people are walking in the roadway, especially during inclement weather such as today when the grass and the dirt of the parkway makes it very difficult to walk and stay off the street. So for those reasons, we believe that the permit parking district should be extended. One problem that has occurred as a result of the permit parking district is that some of the employee parking on Moraga, which previously parked in the residential area, has been affected by the parking restrictions. We have met with it. I have met with at least one of the representatives of the commercial area. There is a 1 block long commercial area of Moraga which has a number of office buildings. They have about 67 parking spaces there today. The street is quite wide, and we've determined that we could put angle parking in that commercial block to add an additional 20 spaces, which would be available for the employees of those commercial buildings. Those spaces could be regulated in any way that the commercial district would like to, such as 2-hour, 4-hour, no parking, or some type of other control. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Mr. Fuhrer, we're going to have a couple people on just each side. Chuck Levy first. Chuck Levy.
Mr. Levy is an opponent, and go back and forth.
Yeah. Chuck Levy.
Yes, thank you. The suggestion that the problem with the business owners will be solved by expanding and installing angle parking on Moraga Drive will not succeed. In our building, there are 29 people who depend on parking on the street while they work. There's not on-site parking for them. 29 people each day for the past 15 years have parked peaceably in the neighborhood on the adjacent streets that are right next to our building that are residential streets, and we've not had a problem. The Getty has caused this problem. The people now, because there's restricted 2-hour parking in that area, have to come down every 2 hours and move their cars. People who come for depositions have to break the deposition. People who come for meetings with lawyers have to leave the lawyers' offices and go down to the street and move their car every 2 hours. In the past, without any problems, we've had sufficient parking in that particular area to park all these people. And it really is unfair to say that you need a year to look at the Getty. The Getty has hundreds of parking spaces available every day that no one knows about. Our employees have been going over there and counting them. The Getty now refuses to allow them to count them and escorts them out of the building. But on weekends, you'll find several hundred parking spaces and they may be taking reservations, but people aren't showing up. When the Getty opened, there was a tremendous demand that this council put in effect the program, we didn't know about it. No one told us about it. The people who signed the petitions didn't bring the petitions to our building to sign. But that today, there's a shuttle that runs from the Holiday Inn to the Getty. It's down over 30%. The streets can be used. You go down the streets where our people previously parked, or they can all day, and where they can now park for 2 hours, you find acres of parking available. You find any day of the week there's no more than 20 people on blocks that have preferential parking, while you have other people who come down and have to change their cars around every 2 hours. It's ridiculous. It's a waste of the energy. These people who are forced to come down every 2 hours, these are people whose taxes help pay to maintain those streets that they're not allowed to park on. These residents, they have driveways, they have multi-car garages, they have no need to park on the streets themselves. This is just something that impedes dramatically and wrongfully on the common working person. And I just want to add one particular point. This procedure that is being followed here is not what's prescribed by my understanding of the code. There should be a study of this parking area before these types of restrictions are placed in. But the code provides that if you want to impose restrictions of this nature, there has to be one of three criteria that have to be met. Either there's an unusual media event, and there was, but it's passed. There were 500 media items out about the Getty when it came out. There's less than 100 came out recently. There's less media attention. You have to have a natural disaster to put in a limited parking like this in such short notice. There isn't. Or it has to affect less than 6 blocks. And they've had petitions for preferential parking signed and filed by people covering 10 blocks. So we really need to stop.
Mr. Levy, are you going to take all the time?
I'm done.
It's all right with me, but Christine Gallo.
Hi, thank you very much for hearing me this morning. My name is Christine Gallo. I am employed on 815 Moraga Drive. I've worked for the company for 3 years and have always parked in the residential parking. I have a very strong caseload. I'm forced to leave meetings, leave my boss. He's frustrated. It's costing me personally for the tickets. Not only is the parking enforcement marking our cars, but even if we move our cars on the same street, they're taking down our license plate numbers and ticketing us even if we move our cars. That is just ridiculous. I don't have time to take off of work to go and fight a citation for my workday. It's frustrating to my boss, it's costly to me. I work overtime, I have to walk blocks at night to go get my car. I don't feel that I have to put myself in danger to walk blocks after I work overtime. There was plenty of parking north on Bellagio. The people in the apartments work during the day, so that worked out so we can work and leave our cars there during the day. At night, we had already left, and they have their parking plus their own parking spaces. It's becoming unsafe because even walking across the street with the taxis and the buses and the people looking for parking, we cannot even walk across the street safely because they're not even, working with the stop signs. We have no lights, no crossing. It's just ridiculous, and it's very frustrating to have to stop your workload. I don't even take lunch most of the time, so I have to stop and put a note on my computer, and if I don't get out in time, I get tickets. It's just ridiculous. I think that before we have the restricted parking, that it worked out fine for both the employees and the residential people. So thank you very much.
Okay, is there anybody else from other than the law firms that are opposing this? All the cards I have seem to be from the same law firm, so we'll make their cards part of the file, but we'll go on Robert Bell and then John Walsh.
Mr. Ferraro, I don't mean to preempt Mr. Bell, but my name is Tom Lawless. I am from the law firm, and I'm also a partner in the building. I'd be happy to wait until after Mr. Bell
Well,
speaks.
if you want to speak, go ahead, but you only have go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'd like to address what Mr. Connor stated in his initial remarks. First, Mr. Connor indicates that we need to evaluate the attendance at the Getty for a year. And I suggest to you that this laboratory experiment of evaluating the attendance at the Getty for a year may kill the guinea pig. And the guinea pig is the commercial use at our address, because in that 1 year time, we'll lose valuable people like Christine Gallo, the hardworking people who are adversely affected. And we'll lose tenants at that building, and we'll lose clients because none of them have access to the parking that they've used for 15 years. If you want dramatic evidence of the impairment of our legitimate interests and the lack of a necessity for this regulation, you should go to that street on Monday. We've peacefully coexisted for Monday. The Getty's closed on Monday, and all of our people park on that street on Monday. And if you go in the following days, you'll find that the street is not fully parked. But the problem is that our people are not able to use the parking that they've used for 15 years. So I say to you that if you impose an ordinance that is of doubtful validity, that requires a one-year test period, our businesses will not survive the one-year test period. Then in response to the second point made by Mr. Connor, which is we need time to work with the Getty to study a transportation program, it does not necessarily follow, as a logical sequitur, that while the city works with the Getty to create the transportation program, there must be in place an adverse preferential parking district that impairs the interests of the people who've lived in the community and paid over $500,000 taxes in 5 years. And finally, the last point that was raised by Mr. Connor was that there's a concern about Sepulveda Boulevard. None of us is arguing about Sepulveda Boulevard. What we are saying is that the cure for the illness that was created by the Getty is going to kill the patient. And the patient is the commercial use that has existed in this neighborhood harmoniously for 15 years. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Robert Bell, and then John Walsh.
Good morning. My name is Robert Bell. I am the president of the Homeowners Association immediately adjacent to the Getty Center. We have about 3,000 members. On behalf of our members, we are here today, many of whom are in the audience, to ask for an extension of the temporary parking district in the vicinity of the Getty. As you can imagine, citing a 1 million square foot facility drawing more than 1.25 million visitors annually in a residential neighborhood has produced some serious dislocations, which we are attempting to solve in cooperation with the Getty management. In the meantime, however, an extension of the temporary permit parking is needed to stabilize the situation until long-term solutions are found. We need your help in stabilizing things until solutions are found. The one-month trial so far has been successful for our residents, but has not been of assistance to commercial operators, including gas stations and offices in the vicinity. However, as I understand it, your ordinance does not provide for commercial stakeholders. However, the crowds generated by the Getty's opening made parking unavailable prior to the posting, and there is still scarce parking after the posting. For the many residences impacted by the Getty's visitors, we support a one-year extension to give the Getty time to relocate or build additional parking. The problem arose obviously due to the city restricting the Getty to 1,200 parking spaces in its parking structure. Given the estimated 1.2 to 1.5 million visitors per year, it is obvious that this is a totally inadequate parking arrangement. We ask for your help and urge you to extend the temporary permit parking until a viable solution can be found. Thank you.
Thank you. John Walsh.
Thank you. I'm John Walsh, the director of the Getty Museum. A lot of you council members were with us for the opening of the Getty Center, and you could see what an amazing experience it was. Not just about great art, not just about buildings and views, but it was about the audience. It was a wonderful audience, finally one that looked like Los Angeles. It was a broad cross-section of the city, a third of it coming by public bus, and that's the way we want to keep it. We're concerned, above all, that the Getty remain as accessible as possible. This is a museum for the whole city. But we are very sorry for the inconvenience and the unhappiness that our popularity has caused to our neighbors to the east. It's simply much more popular than anybody imagined it was going to be. What we need now is some time to respond. We think that the measure that's before you now is going to help ease the inconvenience to the neighbors during the time that it's going to take us to work out various measures. First of all, we're going to need to work to create more bus routes, working with the DOT on Dash, working with MTA on new routes. Secondly, we're working with potential private shuttle operators, including Robinson's May and our partner neighborhoods throughout the city, Boyle Heights, Crenshaw, North Hollywood, and others, a real outreach network for shuttles. And third, we're creating more parking. We're making more surface parking on the site, 150 parking spaces or so, and we're working hard now to identify sites for more parking, have targeted these just off-site, nearby, and are working on getting them. So to do all this is going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take us some time. In fact, we think it should take the full cycle of seasons, because there are huge variations in the usage from day to day and season to season. We really need through December to test the strategies for dealing with these peak attendance. So we urge you to pass this measure. We think it's fair, we think it'll work, and we think it'll keep the Getty accessible to everybody in Los Angeles. Thanks.
Thank you. David Wang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am not a lawyer, just a resident on Bell Terrace, which is a one-block-long cul-de-sac street off Sepulveda, closest to the Getty entrance. Our problems you have all seen on television. I think the news for just prior to our getting our signs. We, unfortunately, unlike perhaps other areas of Bel Air, do not have long driveways for 5, 10, 25 cars. We're not trying to privatize our street. We are unique in the sense that we don't even have, I have friends that have said, can I park in your driveway when I come and visit the Getty? Well, my answer is we don't have a driveway. There is no driveway. We have 4 adults in the home with 4 cars, parking for 2, so 2 rely on the street for parking. And this is a situation, of course, which is common to our whole street. We only have 15 houses on that street. Being a cul-de-sac, we do have other problems in terms of traffic, but parking is our greatest problem. We have not been able to, and of course, this is a continuing, real, and an immediate problem that is very different. I sympathize with the commercial people. I hope that you can provide some other kind of permits for them to park also, to coexist peacefully. But ours is a real problem. And if Bell Terrace can be singled out and separated from Moraga Bellagio, we would enjoy that also, to continue with restricted parking on our street so that our homeowners can continue to park in front of their own homes. Thank you.
Thank you. That we had 3 on each side, so we'll close the debate.
Solutions to the problem, just solve them quickly. Number 1 solution, there is no real competition between the residents and the business interests. Allow us to have parking permits. The residents aren't opposed to the business interests having preferential parking permits. That's perfectly permitted. And the other is, these people, some of them just need the restrictive parking on the weekends. They don't need it during the week. The first one satisfies everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right, the public comment period is closed. Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As I think you colleagues are aware, the Getty is not in my district, and the approvals for it were long before the time of most of us here on the council. But the impact of the Getty's success, as I think has been well documented, has been enormous and negative in this one neighborhood directly to the east. And all that is on the table, all I am seeking from the council, is to extend through December the restrictions that have been so successful in alleviating the problem on these streets for the last several weeks. Let me go into a little bit of detail with you. First of all, the process through which the residents have gone. The petitions are in, the payment is in through the Getty. Mr. Alarcon and committee chose to waive consideration of the discussion of this issue, and so now we've had a hearing today. We know what the problems were before. They're well documented. People were unable to park in front of their own homes or even get out of their driveways very frequently. This addresses that problem. As Mr. Levy and his colleagues in the firm, in the building which he occupies and owns, have mentioned, that problem being alleviated did not help the law firm, and we understand that. There are 67 parking spaces on the Moraga business corridor, as Mr. Connor has indicated, and we have, in fact, I've directed Mr. Connor to put in 20 additional spaces by diagonally parking on that street. That would create 87 parking spaces on that street. which I think will be very beneficial to all concerned. And as Mr. Connor indicated, they can be restricted or not as the business community wishes. It is of no import to us except to assure that there be as much parking available as possible for them. There are three basic reasons why going through December 31st is important. And by the way, the homeowners understand this is not a solution to be cemented in stone in perpetuity. It's a solution to be put in place temporarily as several things get sorted out. First of all, the Getty has pledged to create at least an additional 125 parking spaces on a plot of land that they own. That can't be completed until the end of the calendar year, working at all speed, all deliberate speed. Secondly, the Getty, as you've heard, I think at the urging of many members of this council, certainly myself, is embarked on a very important outreach effort to assure that the Getty truly is accessible from neighborhoods throughout the city of Los Angeles via shuttle, via public transit. They have started that process. It needs to come to fruition. All of us would like that to happen. Thirdly, we do have to go through, as was stated by the representatives of the Getty and by Mr. Connor, one full cycle here. We don't know exactly what to expect from crowds at the Getty. Even in the last month or so, during which crowds have said to be abated, there have been days when there have been enormous crowds at the Getty. And we have to be getting a sense over the course of this next 11 months or so what restrictions will make sense given what we've seen from experience that is not tied to the remarkable opening that the Getty had. By the way, as Mr. Connor indicated, I want to underscore this. Parking in this neighborhood, this immediate neighborhood, and walking to the Getty is dangerous. And Mr. Connor brought that to our attention, and he's right, because Sepulveda, which is the one means of access from this neighborhood where people should not be parking for the Getty, to the Getty, has almost no sidewalks on it, and people travel 50 miles an hour or more on that street. This is not an appropriate place for that parking to occur. It is an appropriate place for the residents and the businesses to be able to park. The Getty has had great success, but that success should not come at the expense of people who are immediately adjacent to it. I appreciate the fact that you have hung in there with me during this process. It has been a very difficult thing to try to accommodate everybody's interests, and I ask for an aye vote on the motion. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Ms. Miskowski.
I rise to support this request by Mr. Fuhrer. The Getty is in the 11th District, and there have been some problems surrounding its opening. But I think we also ought to look at the positive side of this. 1/3 of the people now arriving at the Getty are arriving on public buses, public accommodation. That's a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment that I think should be highlighted as for this city, for this region. 1-to-1 is the ratio of the arrival at the Getty from people arriving by their private car and arriving by non-private car, any other number of vehicles or means. I think we ought to encourage that, continue to deal with this issue, and let 1 year occur to establish some degree of normalcy. There's not a sitting back and waiting and measuring. There is very proactive efforts, as I think Mr. Fuhrer has indicated, on the part of the Getty, on the part of community groups, and not just in the immediate area. I've already had council members come and say that a number of their buses that are available at the council districts are going out to as many of their clubs and organizations in the city. The important focus, I think, of what Mr. Fuhrer said is the development of outlying shuttles, outlying areas where there will be acknowledged ways to get into the Getty without needing that 2 or 3 month reservation. The other thing that's occurring, I don't think that he mentioned, is that there's an incredible number of entrepreneurial issues being brought up where people are starting to talk to major centers in and throughout the city, in the Valley and elsewhere, about creating a Getty shuttle from outlying areas, so it's not only dependent on the Getty. I think the Getty wants to work with these groups to make sure that there's some control, but there are an awful lot of opportunities that are out there. But as was indicated, I think a short-term extension of this doesn't allow us to have a real test of the various kinds of conditions that will ensue, particularly this summer. A 6-month continuance does not get us through the summer period, which is going to be the most different from the norm that we are in now because of the availability of vacationers, school holidays, and the like. So I think that there is reasonable progress. I think in answer to some of the people who have the commercial businesses there, the Getty, too, has been working not only with the Department of Transportation and the local commercial interests there to find alternatives.
Clearly, there were additional parking spaces provided, and I would like to suggest that the department continue to work with the two council offices and the city attorney's office to determine whether or not the mechanism of providing some kind of entry from the commercial businesses into that preferential parking district could be explored on a temporary basis and given the unusual circumstances, which is obviously what occurred in the first place to precipitate this in such a quick manner. But I think it is working. It's working from a lot of positive reactions. The underlying purpose here is to continue to facilitate access to the Getty in as reasonable and proactive way as possible, not necessarily dependent, as everything in this city has always been, on that single occupancy vehicle. So I think that this is an innovative, creative, and positive approach that we're working on many fronts, and ask for its support.
Mrs. Walters?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, I oppose this temporary imposition of a parking restriction on public streets, and I continue to oppose it today. Let me share with you a letter that I received from one of my constituents who lives in the downtown area, in the Bunker Hill area, and he says that he had the opportunity to visit the Getty last Saturday afternoon. On the approach to the center, I did not notice any significant foot traffic at the entrance or in the surrounding area. I arrived by automobile and saw very few people walking onto the premises. On the tram ride up to the center, I saw the adjacent neighborhood of large homes nestled on very large properties. He goes on to state that parking restrictions in the surrounding neighborhood are not the answer. While I do believe that some people may have abused their parking privileges originally, this does not warrant a continuation of the parking restrictions. If a homeowner has their driveway blocked, they can simply notify parking enforcement to have the illegal vehicle towed away. Moreover, with adjoining properties separated with ample distances, I don't believe that the residents are being inconvenienced. I believe that you have a neighborhood that doesn't tolerate the diversity of this city when it encroaches into their area. This is totally unacceptable, and I hope that you will reject making public streets the private domain of the local residents. This adds further discouragement to the other residents of Los Angeles from visiting the Getty, which is a treasure of the city to be experienced by all its citizens. And that sort of sums up my feelings about this in a nutshell. 2 years or close to it before the Getty even opened, the people around this wanted their neighborhood gated, and they got it. They hadn't experienced one iota of traffic related to the Getty, but they wanted their neighborhood gated. And now the part that isn't gated wants public streets to be withdrawn from public use so that they can have the exclusivity of their neighborhood without the traffic. Now, they've not petitioned to be withdrawn from public use, but I think that's the next step. Parking restrictions really lead to that. We have provided too many public streets for the exclusive use of people who live in certain neighborhoods. And somebody here said earlier that the taxes of all of the city paid for the streets that those residents enjoy. And I cannot emphasize that too much. Part of the Getty is a wonderful place, and I want all the city to enjoy it. Part of this problem must lie at the feet of the Getty. They have chosen, both in their prior location and in this one, to locate in practically inaccessible places and then say, you know, it's your museum. That's another issue that isn't going to be solved. They're where they are. But we do not need to compound the problem
Mrs. Walters.
by further restricting parking on public streets. And I urge you to vote no on this, not for extension
Mrs. Walters,
for a year.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
President.
Holden.
Mr. Fuhrer, I guess you have to make your case. What I mean by that is that the attorneys were saying that there was not too much of a problem during the week since the excitement about the opening of the billion-dollar facility, Getty, during the holidays. And on the weekends is where they have the most problem. And during the week, it would have an adverse effect on them. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, like have you given that any thought? Number one, before you answer, because I'm going to speak and then sit down. And Mr. Tom Connors, along with the Getty people, you talked about having some kind of a remote transportation, a shuttle. You talked about having that. My question is, what have you specifically done, if anything? When they came to see me, I says, look, you can use the old federal building down there, the parking lot, lots of space, have a dash program to run like we do to the Hollywood Bowl, and you can do that on a period, at a time schedule. It can be advertised, and that's what you're doing. Then my question is, are you planning to put anything like that in place immediately? Is it imminent that that'll happen? You probably, when I finish, you guys can all answer. I would suggest that be the case. If it is not, Ms. Walters talked about the fact that one of her constituents observed the fact that this was not the case where it was being, the streets were being, well, on my time, go ahead.
I just want to briefly respond, Mr. Holden, to 2 points that you've raised. First of all, yeah, very seriously considered having the restrictions be weekends and not during the week, as you're asking. Put that on the table, in fact, at a community meeting. But it was made clear to me, DOT made some strong points in this regard, that Getty too, and I agree, if we do that, we're really failing to take account of the fact that we have a spring vacation coming up and a summer vacation coming up, and then beyond. For us to continue to have this issue on the council floor every 2 or 3 months as the nature of the crowds at the Getty are likely to change and more restrictions may be necessary really doesn't make sense, and it's extremely labor intensive to deal with this. Just quickly, the other thing I want to mention is the reason that Ms. Walters' constituent recently saw very few, if any, people walking on Sepulveda from this area is because it is now 2-hour parking for the public, but only 2-hour parking for the public. We have sufficiently reduced demand for parking in the area that people aren't doing it. That was the whole point. So it's not a good control group to look at this period because no one will park there given the restrictions.
Before my time runs, I just want to say clearly that even though the spring vacation, the summer vacation, if you just do weekends until then, it will afford the Department of Transportation an opportunity to put in place a dash-type program that could be advertised to pick them up and carry them to certain areas. And at the same time, if you have the 2-hour restriction for residents, and can stay there unlimited amount of time, could that opportunity be afforded, if you're going to go forward, to the people who've been operating as businesses there for a period of time?
We have a 2-hour restriction for anybody. Anybody can park for 2 hours. The residents are exempted from that. That was what you just said.
Exempt, yeah.
But that's the status quo.
Yeah, could you exempt the business community as well as well? That's been operating there.
Now,
no, you don't need that.
Mr. Connor, did you want to respond?
That's the first applause Nate's had in this city for a long time.
Well, you weren't with me last night.
Okay,
Mr.
Holden, your time is up.
Currently-
Ms. Goldberg.
John, can Tom respond?
Currently, the ordinance does not allow commercial property to have permits. It would require amending the ordinance. I'd like to add one more piece of information. The demand to attend the Getty is less during weekdays, but also the available parking is less because it's utilized by the large number of staff that are there. So on the weekends, there's more parking and more demand. On the weekdays, there's less demand, less parking available.
Okay, Ms. Goldberg.
Oh, I didn't follow that. There's
less-
more staff on the days that there are less people attending?
Weekdays.
During the weekdays, the staff utilizes a number of the parking spaces that are then available on the weekends to visitors. So during the weekend,
Where does the staff park on the weekends?
they're not there on the weekends.
There's a lot of research and things like that are not part of the...
I see. Well, you know, I have very mixed feelings about this. I haven't even decided how I'm going to vote. But I just find it appalling that as much money was spent on this building and this wonderful structure and the collections inside and the gardens, and so little time was spent worrying about how this might inconvenience the area and what plans they could have done before it opened. And I find that just appalling. I really do. I have to say that. I also think that we have to do something about the way this is enforced. I had no idea that if you moved your car, you could still get a ticket. Well, they're saying it's happening. No, she said she moved her car, they're taking down the license plates, and even though she moved another space or two up, they gave her a ticket because she had been a few spaces back. Well, see, he knew the ordinance. You have to move a mile.
That's the 72-hour ordinance. These are time limit restrictions.
Well, I think we ought to look into that before we do anything else. Thirdly, I don't see why we don't seriously consider amending the ordinance to deal with the commercial spaces, because I think that's a big part of the problem in a lot of areas, is that if you do this, nobody can park and use the businesses, and the businesses then get pitted against the residents, and that's, I don't think, really healthy. But, you know, this is really an appalling situation. I'm concerned about why we're doing this for a whole year, and I would like you to address that again, because I can see doing it in the summer, and I can see doing it even during the next holiday season when people are off from school and work and have more time. But I don't understand why we would do it all the times in between, and I don't understand how you know whether it's working or not if you don't let people park there at some point and find out whether they would, whether the demand has decreased. So I'm very concerned about this time. And you know, we do have along Dodger Stadium signs which you flip on the days that you can park and the days that you can't, so it's not like we have to have something that's the same all the time. The signs can have those flip signs that go blank, which don't restrict it, and so I think this is more than is necessary for some of the time, and all that is necessary for some of the time, and I don't think we have to be limited by off and on.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hernandez.
You know, Mr. President, someone made reference that we have to support this or else, you know, the valley could succeed. And I keep on saying, God, maybe they should succeed. From my perspective, the reality is that would allow me to put preferential parking in my district. See, I keep on arguing about preferential parking in my district because public streets are public streets. And they were built with public funds, and everybody's supposed to be able to park in them. And for the life of me, I don't know why the Getty chose not to build itself in my district, because everything else was built in my district at the beginning. We just tend to forget that. And I understand the issue much better than most people think, because I deal with it every day in my district. Except it might not be the Getty that doesn't allow local people to park in front of their houses where they don't have driveways. It might be the junior high school that's over capacity and has tripled in size, and that's where the teachers park. So I understand the issue from the residents' perspective very clearly. At the same time, because I understand that issue, I want to support it. But I don't think it's a fair process throughout the city. See, it is allowing someone to have their cake and to eat it. It is allowing preference to a community. And the Getty has to understand that, and the residents have to understand that. We're treating you very different from the way we treat other Angelenos. And that's part of what this council's not supposed to do. I'm going to support the ordinance because I also made a commitment to the Getty, and that commitment was that every junior high school, elementary school, and high school in my district, every senior citizen center is eligible for a bus to go to their facility. And I expect their doors to be open to my constituents. And it's because they told me that if we could not deal with the issues of the local neighborhood, they had to respect that neighborhood to the point where they might have to be restrictive as to who can attend. You see, it doesn't make sense. I think that the Getty has to apply itself to more planning. I think that we as the public sector have to deal with the transportation issues. The restriction part as an argument, because you got to deal with the neighborhood concerns. We have to keep the facility open to everybody as much as possible, access to everybody as much as possible. And it shouldn't just be poor people who can get there by public transportation. Everybody should use public transportation. I think that, Mr. Fuhrer, I want you to understand that I'm more inclined for a 6-month period that comes back to us than I am for a 1-year period.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burnson.
That's my motion.
Yeah, there's a number of questions here, and a number of things have been said that need to be addressed. Yes, the streets are all public, but that same token, we charge parking on certain streets, even though the public paid. Well, in many cases, since 1957, Mr. Hernandez, the public did not pay for them. The developer of the property is required to do the streets and sidewalks when new streets and sidewalks are done and new construction takes place. But that's beside the point. One of the things that we did not do properly, and I don't know where the ball was dropped, whether it was in our department or whether it was by Getty, maybe the council was responsible in our eagerness to have a great facility like the Getty, and it is a great facility, there's no question about it. But we always, in every project, we need to think about the impact that it has on the community. And there was an impact here that apparently wasn't well thought out, or we didn't take full consideration onto. So we need to do that. I think that a year is a reasonable period of time. I'm really troubled by the comment that if you park there for an hour, or whatever the parking limitation is, and you move the car, I don't mean a space or two, but if you drive around the block or go for a mile, such as the 72-hour parking requirement ordinance is, state law is, that you ought to be cited. If you move the vehicle and you move it for any appreciable thing, whether you drive around the block, whether you go to the store or whatever, you mean to tell me if I lived there and I had my car parked in front and I got in the car and I went to the market and came back, I'd get a ticket? And that's what you're telling me. But that's what you said. You said that it was, if you went around the block or whatever, it didn't count as moving it. Well, I don't think that's right. Just as there's a number of things that we do on parking violations that I don't think are right. I don't think it's right for us to cite people for parking their cars in a street sweeping zone when we don't sweep it. And we do it every day. So, I think we need to, I think we need to give Mr. Fuhrer the courtesy of what he's asking for, 1 year. Let's get this problem resolved, and I think that we need to do a better job of thinking out these projects. And maybe as chairman of planning and land use, I might be the guilty one. I don't know, in retrospect, but somewhere along the line, we dropped the ball in not thinking out the parking situation and the impact on the residents. So I'm going to support Mr. Fuhrer's motion.
Mr. Wax.
Mr. President, obviously, from my long-standing point of view regarding opposing permit parking, I understand very well what some of my colleagues are saying. I will support this, however, and I want to make a couple comments. I don't think that the Getty did neglect the surrounding community. I think the surrounding community told the Getty not to put so many parking spaces in an effort to keep a lot of people out. And that was wrong, and it's proven wrong. I think that the number of spaces was partly limited by the pressure from some of the surrounding community that thought if you had a small enough place and didn't really believe people would take public transit and all, you would have an institution that did not impact the community. It has worked out the opposite. Secondly, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people, I really understand what Ms. Walters is saying, but there is a fundamental difference. I love the Getty where it is. I think the Getty is glorious. And I think the gift in part of the Getty is that it is one of the few places in Los Angeles where wherever you come from, the moment they are there, you are in a new sense of place where you have created an environment for you to be in touch with that is remarkable. The responsibility is to make that gift available to everyone in this city. It is not to have a lesser gift, it is to make that gift and spread it to everyone. They have started. And I thought when Denzel Washington spoke that time at the opening ceremony, was very poignant as to why he was there and the importance of every day from 9 to 11, children from throughout the city would be at the Getty. And hopefully, though, it extends. They will come back with their parents and with their families. And the Getty has not only the duty, but the means to extend outward into every community in Southern California to make that glorious place a part of the reality of everyone. And if they do that, then we will have an institution that has enriched this city immeasurably. So I want to give them that benefit of the doubt. And I told them when they came to see me, it was on the understanding that they will continue in that direction and make this a part of the lives of all of the people who live here. And if they do, we're all going to be better for it.
Ms. Goldberg.
See, the problem I'm having, Mr. Wax, is that that's not how it was phrased. How it was phrased is that if they don't get the preferential parking, they will have to close off the public access. That's how it was phrased. See, that's the problem I was having with this. Up till then, I was having less trouble. But if you have a problem with parking and your solution is to cut off the people who come by public transportation, then it makes me very suspicious as to what level the outreach really will be. Because that would be the only thing I wouldn't do. I wouldn't even consider that as one of the options. How does that improve the problem? And the answer was that they considered that because they would get so much pressure from the people who were in the area, they would be forced to do something like that. See, my constituents aren't going to give them a lot of pressure. And if there's going to be a response to pressure as to how you get looked at, then I worry that this gem will be restricted in access. And it was really that particular approach that made me very negative about this whole thing. Because I actually came in to vote that last day. I wasn't scheduled to be here. I came in to vote that last day to let them try it because I thought it was going to be a committed organization to serving the entire city. And it disturbed me greatly to have it posed to me, not by everybody in the group, but by one of the people in the group, that they might have to restrict the public access if they didn't get this. And that I found very disturbing. However, what is wrong with a 6 months and then come back and evaluate and see what happens after that? That'll take us through the summer. We'll get at least the beginning of the summer, and we can see what's going on and give it a shot.
May I answer on your time?
Mm-hmm.
6 months, in fact, does take us only through midsummer, so we won't even have the most congested period likely to happen during the summer, and that's August when people are fully on vacations. Secondly, it doesn't take account of the fact that even in the past month there have been real spikes in demand, and we're trying not to, obviously by having the restriction in place, we're not going to be testing whether the restriction is working better on one day or another during that period, but rather we're going to be seeing whether there is a time of year where we should be doing the flipping over of the signs, as you indicated is the case at Dodger Stadium, and times of the year when we don't need to, but we'll have a whole year to deal with that. Also, the Getty has pledged to add 125 or more parking spaces on the site. And they can't do that until, at best, the early part of December. They've said that to me again today. And I do think that this outreach effort that all of us have very strongly urged on the Getty, and that the Getty has indicated they are committed to doing, needs some time to work. So that's my response.
Mr. Holden, you want to be heard?
Previous question, right, Nate?
No.
Mr. President, I understand there's a gentleman in the audience who can give me some count figures. Will you just stand and come to the mic on my time? Not you, sir. Not you. You've been there. I have before me a January 30th, 1998. The Getty Center had about empty spaces 211.
Yes.
And I have the back tempo, that's 162.
Yes.
And
I
then,
physically went out and counted.
Would you just go down that list for me, please? Mr.
Sure. One of the things we did was
No,
go out.
no, just give me the count.
Okay, the count is on Friday at 3:06 p.m. The Getty had 211 empty spots on levels P5, P6, and P7. Across the street at Leo Beck Temple, the lot was practically empty and had actually had an actual count of 162 spaces
Just
empty.
give me the numbers and don't give me any discussion because I'm going to shut you down if you don't.
Okay, Saturday, 499 at the Getty Center, 126 at Leo Beck Temple at 11:10 a.m. On Saturday at 1:56, I was asked to leave by security, so I could not get the Getty Center, but the Leo Beck Temple had over 150 spaces empty. On Sunday, another person at the law firm went to the Getty Center, counted 520 empty on levels P3, P4, P5 on 11 a.m.
That's enough. Mr. President, the reason why I asked the question, and I'm likely still to go with you, but because it's your district, I wish you guys reciprocate once in a while, but you don't do that, especially you, but that's all right. You know, you just still treat them nice when they're wrong. But Mr. President and members, that it looks like, Tom, I'm holding you more accountable than I would do Mr. Furrer, because if there are empty spaces there, and you're saying let's do this anyway, it doesn't make much sense. Ms. Goldberg makes a good argument when she say that you should do this maybe like on the weekends, if even on the weekends, on a Sunday, nobody was there. Was it raining on a Sunday? I don't know. There must be some extenuating set of circumstances which caused somebody not to show up. If they sold out for the next 3 months, and that's what they really are saying to people, then are they arbitrarily turning people away even though they have not made the appointments for all the spaces? I mean, these questions should be asked. You got to and answered. You got to get their books, their logs. I think between now and Mr. Hernandez's motion when he comes back, you got to have a plan in place. You must have their logs. You must have an idea. You must know then how many appointments was made and how many showed up, so you can know whether you want to continue this program. And I think you should do that continuously, like every 2 weeks between 9 and 6 more months, to see if you want to truncate it at any point. So, Mr. Furrer, I'm sorry. You can still talk on my time.
That's okay, finish up.
Oh, okay, fine. I think you should know then whether or not you want to end it or continue it. But I'll vote for Mr. Hernandez's motion as it supports what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
But that's where I'm.
All right, Mr. Furrer to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Ridley Thomas considers that a merciful way to characterize what's happening now. The bottom line in all this, I appreciate the support of colleagues who want to extend the period. Extending it for 6 months does not really accomplish a number of key goals. Mr. Holden, I agree with you that a lot of monitoring needs to take place during the time that the permit process is in place. For example, we should be monitoring not only demand at the Getty and the extent to which spaces are filled or not at the Getty, which, by the way, are booked through March. I can't testify as to what happens if you go up there and they have an extra space, but they're booked through March. Yeah. Also, we should be monitoring the use of permits in the community to see if it's necessary. There's a whole bunch of monitoring stuff that should happen. But I want to urge colleagues, almost all of whom I think are inclined to be supportive of extending this period, to adopt a period that goes through December 31st and not merely for 6 months. And I will reiterate why that's true, why that's the best approach. First, because there have been spikes in demand even through the last month or so. And those spikes are going to continue. And when we have a year's experience, we can determine to what extent, if at all, restrictions are necessary. But 6 months only takes us through midsummer, when we won't even have the full experience of the heaviest summer time. We won't have December, we won't have the Thanksgiving period. The Getty is working very hard to put in parking, additional parking on site, but they can't even accomplish that until December at the earliest. The Getty is also working on an outreach program that all of us want them to be very vigilant about. So I want to urge that we go through December 31st. I appreciate the support of colleagues to get us some additional time to learn and develop a system that works for everybody in the affected area. I want to urge and I vote on my motion to take it through December 31st. Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Hernandez's motion for a 6 month period.
Hernandez amendment, seconded by Goldberg.
Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
4 aye, 8 no.
That failed. Now we have the
Original motion as appears on your agenda.
Okay. Prepare the roll on that. Tabulate the vote.
10 aye, 2 no.
Okay, that is approved.
Please, John.
Forthwith on that. Next item.
I appreciate it.
Next item.
14 was held on the desk. There was 2 committee reports.
Did we,
Councilwoman Walters moved the Budget and Finance.
Ms. Goldberg, did you want 14 held on a desk? Was your?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll go with budget and finance.
Okay, Mrs. Walters moved Budget and Finance, so prepare the roll on Budget and Finance. Tabulate the vote.
12 aye.
That is approved.
Special one, Mr. President.
No, we have 19A, B. 19B.
19B.
Is there any discussion on 19B?
No. Mr. President.
Mr. Holden, you have the floor.
I think that the city attorney...
First of all, will you tell us about the shopping cart? Do you have a shopping cart with you?
I think it's a good point that Mr. Thomas and Mr. Wax raised. Try to obtain a point of clarification as relates to whatever I've been doing, high and low. So,
yeah, we have
up or down, whatever the case may be.
Let's hear from the city attorney.
Let's hear from the city attorney.
The motion was asked, the city attorney.
Thank you, President, members.
Mr. President, as the maker of the motion, let me just simply say that there is a level of seriousness involved, and we shouldn't lose our civility so as to become so serious that we lose our sense of humor about much of this. But I wish to assert that what is before us is, as you appreciate, a rather serious matter, and any thing that could expose the city to legal action because of the behavior of any member of the council or anyone who represents him or herself as acting on behalf of the city ought to be looked at with the greatest degree of care. All of us share the point of view that each member here has the right to express his or her views on, for all intents and purposes, any matter that might come before the public. But in the final analysis, if that brings us to the brink of litigation, I think all of us have to do the right thing and protect taxpayers' interests. The motion and the seconds are intended to raise that very issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, the motion asked for a report from the city attorney, and we have the city attorney here to give us a report.
The report then would be in 2 areas. So what are the elements of tortious interference with a contractual relationship, and whether a member acting alone can cement the city's position with respect to some of the elements of that potential tort. It's important to point out that there are 3 parties who would be involved in an allegation of tortious interference with a contractual relationship: the 2 parties in the contract and the party who is claimed to be the actor. In order for a party or a plaintiff to establish a cause of action for tortious interference, there has to be a contract, obviously, or some opportunity for economic advantage. There would have to be knowledge by the actor that there is such a contract, and then that actor would have to engage in activities that would induce a breach. There must be an actual breach or disruption of that contract which causes damages, and the actions engaged in by the actor would have to be without justification. That really goes to whether or not there would be some affirmative defense to the cause of action. It's important to note in looking at the cases that the action by the defendant or by the actor in the tort must actually be the cause of the breach, and that there actually be a breach. In other words, there would not have been a breach or a break of the contract without the actions of the actor. With respect to the second question, it has been asked whether a council member acting alone can speak on behalf of the city or create the inducement on the part of the city. In fact, given Charter Section 21, all legislative and governing power is vested in the City Council, and the City Council acts through a majority of a quorum of its body, and it is not, there is no motion or action on behalf of a majority of a quorum that the City Attorney knows of, and I don't believe that anyone has taken the position that there is such an action where there is authority to negotiate with the Raiders or have them breach any contract and come to Los Angeles. What the City Council can do, if it desires at this time, is to reiterate its position that there is no authority on behalf of any one actor or any subsection of its body to negotiate with the Raiders and induce a breach of the contract. That would be, out of an abundance of caution, that would be a good protection for the city and for the taxpayers, if in fact it's the desire of the council not to engage in such negotiations. I'm available for any questions, if there are any. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ridley Thomas, you're the maker of the motion, and call on you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's reasonably well established by virtue of the comments made by the Chief of Staff for the City Attorney's Office that this is a matter that has to be taken seriously. Is that not correct, sir? I'm asking, is that not correct, that this is a matter that must be taken seriously?
Councilmember, any allegation that the city has engaged in the tort of interference with the contractual relationship needs to be considered and taken seriously by this body.
Well, to the extent that we are in receipt of a letter from the legal counsel representing East Bay entities, namely the City of Oakland, Alameda County, the Oakland Alameda Coliseum Commission, saying in effect that this might constitute tortious interference. I repeat my question, should we not take this matter seriously?
Council member, the City Attorney's Office is aware that the letter was directed to an individual council member, although that is not to say that we should not take this matter seriously. Our recommendation would be that the council consider reiterating its position.
All right.
That is the position that is drawn by our office, given the absence of any action to authorize negotiations with the Raiders. So I would point out that the City Attorney's Office is not directly in receipt of the letter, but we've reviewed the letter that came into an individual council member, and we would recommend that we consider the allegation seriously.
Mr. President, I think the City Attorney's Office, as you just heard, says that we must take this matter seriously, given the fact that there's litigation surrounding the City of Oakland and the Raiders and the NFL, and frankly, we do not have any business in that, nor should we insert ourselves in that. No one here should, and if they do, they essentially subject us to the possibility of getting into something that is very, very problematic. To the extent that none of us want to be in that, then it would seem to me that maximum restraint ought to be displayed by all of us. I think that's advisable. I think the taxpayers of this city would most assuredly appreciate that.
Mr. Holden.
All right, Mr. President, in response, the letter was directed to Councilman Nate Holden, as an individual who exercises free speech. I've said over and over again, Mr. Thomas, and to each and every person who was willing to listen, that I did not speak on the behalf of the council or for the council or for the city. And when the question was asked, I said I spoke for Nate Holden and Nate Holden alone. Now, I would support the motion to clarify the city's position as relates to interference with a contract which exists between Oakland Community and All and the Raiders. I support that 100%. You have no problem with me in that regard. As to someone saying that I should not speak on the issue, then I would say you're out of order and it's a direct denial of my right for free speech and would be totally unacceptable to me. Now, there are 3 cases which exist. I was not aware of all that information until yesterday during my visit to Oakland. And I spoke to the mayor, 2 members of the authority, and they happened to be city council members, and the city manager. The other person who gave a statement following was not even in the meeting. I did not know that Oakland had joined with Al Davis and the Raiders to sue the NFL on a matter that they feel that has been violated by the NFL. So it goes on and on. There are 3 lawsuits. I'm aware, as they told me before this discussion took place in Southern California, that Al Davis has been saying he wanted to leave and break his contract. I had no knowledge of that, but that's what they said to me. Now, I didn't cause that to happen, nor do I discuss it with them. That's what they said. Now, the only thing that I've been discussing is the lawsuit between the NFL and Al Davis and the Raiders, which deny us to have a football team in this area and have us to support a white elephant at the Coliseum, one in which we spent close to $150 million to renovate. We raised the Lord the field. We've earthquaked it safe. That's taxpayers' money. And what I've heard by some of my colleagues, we don't want this team and we don't want that one. Instead of waiting until the court rule and then you'll get what you'll get. If it turns out that you get what you don't want, they'll go to Inglewood, they'll go to Pasadena someplace else, and you'll sit over there on the white elephant at the taxpayer's expense, and that'll be the case. I never heard of anything so stupid before in my life, except for the arena deal where you gave away all that money.
Okay.
But the fact that, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I mean, the arena's good now, we got it.
Okay,
All
Mr.
right.
Holden, your time is up. Mr. Wax.
First of all, let me say that I think Mr. Holden does have a right to speak his individual view. I would be the last person to tell someone that they can't do that. That's what I did on the arena. I felt strongly, I disagreed with the city's position, and I did. And others of you have done that time and time again on issues that you feel strongly about that are in opposition to the city's position. I put this motion in and thought it was appropriate and support it because I want to put all third parties on notice that in fact that is the situation. It is an individual speaking and that they cannot rely on it so that they don't try to buttress any legal claims that they might try to bring as a result of it. And when put on notice, they can no longer or cannot rely on that if or even claim that they did, and I feel that that strengthens our legal position and yet does not deny you the right to speak as an individual. As to the team itself, though, I totally disagree with you, Nate. I think that the Raiders would be a disaster. They would be a disaster if they came for free, but I know they're not coming without luxury boxes and box seats that'll cost $100 to $150 million, and I'll be damned if anyone in this city should put in one penny to subsidize luxury boxes for Al Davis and the Raiders, or for that matter, for any other professional team. That, I think, would be wrong, and I think that intervening in that lawsuit would be wrong. It just leads you to a settlement whereby the Coliseum Commission say, okay, we'll settle the lawsuit, we'll build you the luxury boxes, and who's going to pay for that? I think we need the Raiders, like in Yiddish we say, like a Lachenkup, just at arm's distance from these guys by all means. And that said, you go ahead and say anything you want, because first of all, you will anyway, and second of all, you have a right to.
Members of the council, you do know that I sent a letter on behalf of the city council pointing out that Mr. Holden was speaking for himself and not for the city of Los Angeles or the city council, and Mr. Holden thanked me for that letter. Also, I want to point out that since Mr. Davis has been to Los Angeles and sued the National Football League, the Coliseum has not had a Super Bowl in the Coliseum. And that's retribution, that's payback by the National Football League to the city of Los Angeles. Mr. Hernandez. Yeah, let's file a lawsuit, Nate.
Mr. President, members of the council, I also signed the motion because, one, I don't want to restrict any member from expressing his opinion, but Mr. Holden has created tremendous debate in my house. And that is that my son honestly wants the Raiders to come back, and I don't. I want the record to be clear. When Al Davis was here, I sent my season tickets back and said, if you don't want me, I don't want you. But those are individuals speaking. Those are individuals speaking. But I do think that every now and then our actions do kind of get other people excited. And even though my son plays fantasy football with his Nintendo 64, he's the Raiders, they always lose. And I keep on trying to tell him that. But I was disturbed as I heard the city attorney today describe it, because what I heard was, as individuals, none of us have the right to act on behalf of the city. And I appreciate that, because there are times when I do have individual opinions that are very different from everybody else's. But I feel a tremendous need to express them. And I want to be able to do that. I believe that my constituency sometimes has that need to be represented, and I will express it. I want to make sure that that's what I heard from the city attorney, that I have a right to express myself. I do not have the right to express on behalf of the city of Los Angeles unless this council as a whole takes an action giving me that authority. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councilmember. Nothing in my comments were meant to imply that council members don't enjoy free speech rights. They do enjoy free speech rights, but one of the elements of the cause of action is an inducement, a promise on behalf of the city to cause one to break a contract. An individual council member acting alone wouldn't have the legal authority to create that inducement.
And I have the right to support any motion that would ask Mr. Holden not to create havoc in my household. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's your free speech right.
Thank you.
Mr. Burnson?
Well, I think that Mr. Holden has the right to speak as an individual, and I would support that right, but I certainly, ill-advised as that opinion might be, my personal feeling about Mr. Davis and the Oakland Raiders, and emphasize that I say Oakland Raiders, meaning that they should stay there. And in case anybody didn't understand what Joel said about a loch and cup, it means a hole in the head. And we need them about like that. And eventually we will get a NFL team here, but on our terms and not with the people of Los Angeles picking up the tabs so that somebody can benefit with these specialty boxes that Mr. Wax was talking about. There may be some debate about where it may be, Mr. Ridley Thomas. You know, there was a time when the NFL was ready to go to Chavez Ravine, you know that. And in fact, that may be the reason that we lost the O'Malley family over this situation. But at any rate, I just want to make it very clear that Mr. Holden has the right to speak for himself, but he speaks only for himself as a private citizen. And I do not support that. In fact, I would, as a private citizen, and even as a member of this council, I would very clearly like everybody to know that I would oppose any attempt to bring Al Davis or the Raiders back to this city, ever.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, I think we ought to look down the road a little bit to the extent that we can. And perhaps the city attorney might choose to respond to this question that is on the mind of some of us at least. If in the capacity of a private citizen, any member of the council were to speak and draw him or herself into litigation, is there any responsibility on the part of the city to step up and represent that member?
Council member and members of the council, I can speak to the rule generally, and it's important that we not go, well, I can speak to the rule generally, and
let me just say,
are difficult to answer.
The reason I pose the question is because the city of Oakland takes this very seriously. I've spoken with some of the elected officials there, not the least of whom would be the mayor and the supervisor who's on point in this particular instance. And this is not being taken lightly at all. It is not about fun and games. This is something that's very serious to them, and it affects quite possibly issues of their local economy. I repeat, if in fact any member is subjected to a suit are we in any way obliged to represent him? That is the corporate entity of the city. And if so, please speak to that, because I think that's really where the rubber hits the road. My view is, if he's acting as an individual, then he has to stand up and bear the full consequences, as an individual, and not cause the city to represent him or anyone else who would bring this upon himself and by extension to the city. That's the issue that needs to be clarified.
The general rule for a municipality is that where an employee, including a council member, acts within the course and scope of his or her duties, so acts as a public official or acts as an employee, and then that action, rightfully taken, causes litigation, then the jurisdiction will have an obligation to defend that
Action
employee.
rightfully taken?
An action within the course and scope of that person's duties. The opposite side of the rule is that if one acts outside of the scope and course of their duties, acts outside of
Mr.
their...
President, members of the council, it seems to me it has to be clearly laid out that this is not in the course and scope of Mr. Holden's duties. It seems to me we have to define that.
Well, it's important to...
We can't have it both ways, Mr. Wax. Well, let me tell you what Mr. Wax, we need to be clear about this, because on the one hand, it can't be said that anyone is acting on his or her own, and then if in fact that person is sued, we have to represent that person. I mean, it's either one way or another, and I can say to you right now that I would be quite reluctant, and I can't imagine what would cause me to want to represent someone who has been told to restrain himself and not cause us to be drawn into a lawsuit. Just doesn't make sense. You expose the city, and we shouldn't do that. We have a fiduciary responsibility, and it would seem to me that we would act accordingly.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we go on record as a council notifying the City of Oakland through their attorney that the statements or conduct made by Councilman Nate Holden is not within the scope of his duties as a city councilman and does not in fact represent the City of Los Angeles but himself. And I'd like to make that motion, and do I get a second?
Mr. President, point of order.
Mr. Holden, I think I pointed out to Oakland and to the
I
members of the
understand, but
council
Mr.
that-
Thomas seemed to keep dwelling on that, so I think the motion should be made.
Well, I'm satisfied.
And wait a minute, the motion should be made.
Wait a minute. Did you, Mr. Holden or Mr. Thomas is under the impression that we can be responsible for Nate's remarks and will need to defend him or defend this?
No, I can defend myself.
Every one of these cases where someone's sued and the city council or the city considers a defense and indemnification has to be taken on a case-by-case basis, but I'll give two examples. If the councilman, following this meeting, engaged in a course of conduct where, pardon me, Councilman, if I can use you as an example, if the councilman actually created some inducement for which he had absolutely no authority, and if for some reason the raters relied upon that inducement and breached the contract and created damages, then the council clearly would have an opportunity to consider whether or not to defend and refuse a defense based upon one's actions outside the course and scope of one's duties. But I want to distinguish that from a circumstance where a council member engages in speech activities, talks to constituents, talks to folks who want to hear about a public issue like whether or not the raters would come down, and then based upon those speech activities draws a lawsuit from the raters. I mean, one could clearly describe that as actions which are in the course and scope of the duties of a council member, which is to engage in speech activities.
Well, it would seem to me
so
that...
the city could end up being party to the lawsuit.
Well, but let's go back to the earlier presentation. How
I think
reasonable
the
would
answer
it...
isn't the answer yes? It could be, hypothetically.
Hypothetically...
And I appreciate your example, sir, but the fact of the matter is, if he were speaking to constituents, that's one thing. But to the extent that he's speaking to the media with regularity, it might be another thing, wouldn't it be?
That's correct. These all have to be taken on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, Mr. Burnson?
Oh, was my time up?
Well, based upon the conversation I've heard, perhaps a substitute motion is in order. And that substitute motion would be to instruct Member Holden that he not in any way... you're going to let me finish, Mr. Holden. I've been sitting here listening to you.
Make sure you don't instruct me.
Well...
Don't use that term, instruct me.
We as a Mr. President, will you use your chair to...
I don't hear anything.
I had that in
We perhaps need to go on record as advising Mr. Holden that he will be responsible for his actions, and he should not in any way put this council in any jeopardy as far as a litigation is concerned relative to bringing the Raiders to Los Angeles. And I would so move.
Motion to point out that Mr. Holden is responsible for his own actions and the city is not representing the city. Is that, Tim, would that be in order?
Essentially, this body would be establishing a rule that statements made by Mr. Holden regarding this matter are outside the course and scope of his duties. That is a very broad motion, but it is, that is the motion that that's the recommendation that I've heard.
Okay, Mr. Wax.
But statements are not...
And you're going down a path that every one of you will rue the day. You cannot go down a path that tells people they can't speak out. Yeah, they have to. Each of you will want.
I don't think the motion prevents him from speaking out. It's just not the responsibility of the city.
No, and you can't stop somebody from suing you from speaking out. You can speak out on something, and who knows? The people don't like that street up there in Beechwood and sue you. You know, you've got to be able, as long as you don't misrepresent yourself, as long as you don't sit there, as long as you put them on notice you are speaking as an individual,
That's right.
They cannot in any way rely upon you. You've got a right to speak out as an individual, and you can't worry that someone may sue you for that, because someone will sue you for everything. And you have to judge each case as you get to it. If we get sued, then the city attorney will come.
I withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that we should just pass the motion Mr. Ridley Thomas originally brought in. It accomplishes what we need and be done with it. It'll have sent the message to others, third parties, that in fact, you know, that is not the position of the city. They can't rely on it. And let's not hypothecate a lawsuit against someone for saying something down the line which you judge at the time. Just as we judge with police officers, with everyone as they get sued, we make those judgments based on the facts of those cases.
All right, Mr. President,
Mr. Ridley Thomas?
I'm willing to proceed in that fashion. I think some of this is not a matter of litigation or legal issues. It's a matter of what is a good sense and exercising reasonableness. And I would think that ought to inform...
That would be hard to define what is reasonable.
Yes, well, I'm not attempting to define it. I'm just simply asserting it. With that, Mr. President, I think the point is made and everyone is on notice.
And the part should talk about the kiddo. Let me just talk about a frivolous lawsuit.
Mr. Holden,
Well,
if you want to speak, push your button.
I did push my button.
No, now you did.
All right.
You have the floor.
Now, Mr. City Attorney, there's a lawsuit known as a frivolous lawsuit. Would you define a frivolous lawsuit? Because anybody can, as Joel Wax said, anybody can file a lawsuit. And a frivolous lawsuit usually generates a cross complaint. I mean, what I'm saying is that Nate Holden, not today or any time, will be threatened with a lawsuit and shut his mouth on an issue of concern to the people in this community, period. Will not be intimidated. That's the fact. That's what the courts are for. If you think somebody is going to be crossed the line, you file a lawsuit against them. We've made it clear, and nor would I even come to you and ask you for a defense, so therefore you don't offer one unless the city is sued. And you can demur in a case like that because they have been put on notice that I don't speak for this city. I'm speaking as an individual exercising my free speech and being responsive to the people that I represent in the general area. And who's saying we got enough money in the white elephant over there in the Coliseum. And so why shouldn't we why should we wait around for a lawsuit to be settled with the NFL and the Raiders? And that's what they're mad about, because they don't want the public to know that their lawsuit is keeping a football team out of the area. Now, you talk about luxury boxes, Mr. Burnson. Mr. Burnson, Mr. Thomas, just designed the so-called New Coliseum. In the New Coliseum, he has provided for 150 luxury boxes. Well, who the heck is going to pay for them? Or where you get a football team? And club seats. Who's going to pay for them? It's not worth the paper it's written on, drawn on. So you guys are just blowing smoke, and the people are tired of being choked with the smoke. Now 150 luxury boxes are in his design. What about that? You can't put the cart before the horse. The lawsuit must be settled first before you can even entertain the thought of getting a team here, no matter what team it is. Nobody's saying it's got to be the Raiders. Nobody's saying it's got to be an expansion team. But it should be a team. This community should not be denied a team, and this baloney that's being spread over and over again, well, they've had enough.
Mr. Savernich.
I move the previous question on the entire matter.
Prepare the roll on the previous question. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
We have
Aye for Thomas' motion. Aye.
we have a motion. The only regrettable thing is that there weren't any cameras here today to record all this beautiful stuff. Prepare the roll. Tabulate.
10 ayes.
How did Holden vote? With his finger up in the air with the wind. That's how Holden voted.
No, I vote with a clear conscience, and I vote
Special
knowing
one,
the
Mr.
facts.
President, it's your motion, seconded by
I'm
Councilman
not
Holden. The city
wishy-washy.
attorney will explain the findings.
In order for the council to consider this matter, this motion set forth by Council President Ferraro, we have to comply with the rules of Section 54954.2, Paragraph B, Paragraph 2 of the Government Code, and pursuant to Rule 23, rules of the City Council, that there is a need to take immediate action on this matter, and that the need for action came to the attention of the City Council subsequent to the posting of the agenda for today's council meeting.
Okay, prepare the roll on the findings. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
The matter is before us. Any discussion on it? If not, prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith on that. Next item.
This is the time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Mervyn Evans.
Mr. President of the Council and members of the Council, we have delivered to your offices today a copy of the California Bear and Wilderness Protection Act. The California Bear and Wilderness Protection Act is going to the Attorney General's office for official title and summary. The measure will do four things: create a felony of 5 years for killing a bear, a 15-year felony for commercial poaching, create a 1/2 cent sales tax for wilderness and state parks, 50-50 split for both agencies. The measure will also create financing structured to provide inner-city youth and K through 12 children the outdoor and wilderness educational experience sponsored and paid for by the Department of Fish and Game. This is a tax measure that has significant implications in Los Angeles, but it also has unique applications to the city's Department of Water and Power. Because there will be restricted wilderness zones created for bears, the city will no longer be able to access water supplies that bears depend on. It will be a felony to injure a bear. We think this is good public policy. For those of folks who don't have a copy of it today, you can access it on the internet by hitting www.evans98.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Queenie Ruth Summers.
Hello, everyone. I'm from the American Theatrical Ensemble, and I am the administrative director. There is an item that I would ask you to do a motion on. We have been in this city for 5 months attempting, first of all, to develop programming for youth. And one of the things that has been a problem with us is that we bid on a piece of property, the Vision Theater Complex, and we are told that the city is asking for that piece of property. And there are many properties that the city has taken that are theaters that are not in use. The Wilshire E-Bell in many places in this city presents programming, or places where presenters can present programming, but the cost is so high that the average person cannot purchase a place to present the programming. And so we are asking, first of all, that we be able to go on and purchase the place, and whereby we can offer this to different organizations for $500 per day, as opposed to $3,000 for 3 hours. And then the other thing that we are asking from you is that in our programming that we are working with the Scott Joplin Orchestra from Houston, Texas, because we are new to the city, we are not allowed to ask for community development funds prior to the year 2000, and we would just like to ask that if there are any additional funds remaining in this particular time frame, that we be allowed to go on and ask for that. Would someone make a motion with that regard? You cannot do that? What can be done?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Richard Robinson wants to be heard.
Mr. President, members of council, Richard Robinson, neighborhood organizer, 111 West 5th Street, the Frontier Hotel at Main and 5th Streets. You're not going to believe who gave me this jacket and his autograph, Marcus Allen. Pardon the levity here. At the Frontier Hotel are some of the most intelligent munchkins I've ever enjoyed. Teachers have always been uppermost in my mind. Teachers are next to God. Most of my teachers are gray-haired noble ladies who never married to be able to more effectively teach. Mr. Shapiro's determination to help teach the city's children through his dedicated Older Volunteers Educating Students organization is wonderful. I'm hoping you're watching, Mr. Shapiro. I'm hoping you'll be able to help me help my kids at the Frontier. Mr. Ferraro, I'm hoping you'll help Mr. Shapiro help us. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, you got that Raider shirt on you. Get behind Nate Holden. Okay, that's all the cards we have, so the public comment period is closed. Next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
Huh? What?
Motions, posting, and referral.
Yeah, unanimous vote.
Excuses on the desk. Councilmember Wax has requested to be excused. Personal business, Wednesday, February the 18th. Meets council policy.
Unanimous vote.
Councilmember Galanter has requested to be excused. City business, Tuesday and Wednesday, February 3rd and 4th. Meets council policy.
Unanimous vote.
And Councilmember Chick has requested to be excused. City business to leave at 11:30 on Tuesday, February the 10th, and arrive at 10:30 Friday, February the 20th. Both dates meet council policy.
Unanimous vote.
The desk is clear, Mr. President.
Okay, we have adjourning motions. Would everyone please stand? Mr. Burnson.
First I have an announcement. The Plum Committee will meet at 1:30 in this room. And I want to make it clear that the home employment ordinance will be continued 1 week. I'd like to adjourn in memory. In fact, the entire council may want to join me on this one. Adjourn in memory of Mary L. Gadbury Carr. She's survived by 5 children, one being Bob Bartlett, the mayor of Monrovia, and also member Skagg and a colleague of mine from Skagg. That's his mother.
Yeah, all members.
I said all members may want to join me on that.
Members of the council, I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Kimberly DeSells, who passed away Saturday. She is the oldest daughter of Phil Henning, who is the assistant general manager for the personnel department, and his wife, Berta. Survived by her husband, Tim, 1-year-old son, Timmy, her parents, Phil and Berta, 2 sisters. She passed away unexpectedly. all members. Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, Mr. President, members of council, it's great sadness. I ask us to adjourn in the name of Ofelia Cepeda. She passed away January 25th, 1998. Ofelia was a longtime resident of Lincoln Heights and was on the board of the Palo Verde Loma Bishop Cultural Historical Association. And to remind Mr. Burnson, that was the association of residents that fought the O'Malleys and fought the Dodgers from eliminating their neighborhood. And the reality is, we got Dodger Stadium instead. But she was a woman who, to this day, continued to remember her neighborhood and remind people of the history of that neighborhood. And she passed away on January 25th, 1998.
Mr. Holden?
Mr. President, I'd like to announce that we adjourn in memory of Mayor Lionel Wilson, who was the mayor of Oakland, who died. And yesterday I was told that the funeral services will be on Monday, memorial services in Oakland, which
all members
which
on
I
that.
plan to attend. Mr. President, also we adjourn in memory of Margie Outlaw. Ms. Outlaw was well in her 70s and was the sister of Ms. Willie Mae Harvey, who's been a longtime member of the 10th District Women's Steering Committee. And the services will be held at Trinity Baptist Church. They have already been held. And so we ask that we adjourn in her memory as well.
Call the roll. The council is adjourned.